Goes for goal, and it's diverted.
An absolute screamer!
Whip it in, Alan Webb!
South Melbourne do take the lead.
Blanich skies it into the back of the net.
Well, it all comes down to this. As the heavens open up above Olympic Village, we are getting set for the 2022 NPL Men's Victoria Grand Final between two sides. Well, you probably could have picked it had you been paying attention to the season at large. South Melbourne versus the Oakley Cannons, with it all on the line here tonight. It should be a fantastic occasion. My name is Joey Lynch with you. It is my absolute pleasure to be joined by, well, a couple of legends of Victorian football and also Josh Parrish. But to my right, we've got the hero of the 2019 NPL Men's Victoria Grand Final. Technically, he's still a reigning NPL Men's Victoria champion until we get a result from today. Ryan Scott with Western United right now, formerly of the Bentley Greens. Grand Final day, nothing better, is there?
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, first, thanks for having me on today. Obviously the heavens have opened up, but two teams that I think have been the best two teams of the season, so hopefully we get a cracker today.
And rejoining us from the Women's Grand Final, where Ryan Scott's new teammates at Western United, Calder United recorded a 2-0 win. Melissa Barbieri, Bubs, you're back with us. What are you looking forward to seeing out there tonight between the boys?
It's the matchup of the century, I guess. I think it's been a long time. We've all been waiting for a good grand final, battle. And these two teams are one to take it to the 90th minute. If you go into extra time, then it's extra time. But I really feel like the fact that these two teams have made it all the way, it nearly wasn't to be for Oakley Cannons last week, or for South Melbourne, I should say. They were taken right to the end by Port Melbourne, so it's really interesting to note how these two teams shape up today after some injuries and, just differences in how they play. So it'd be a great matchup.
And indeed, I did maybe undersell him a bit earlier, but Josh Parrish is here, the voice of NPL Men's Victoria. Josh, you're back again. Oakley versus South Melbourne for all the marbles. You looking forward to it?
I am. It's a great matchup. The most decorated club in Victorian football versus, I guess you'd call them the noisy neighbours. They're trying to banish the curse once and for all. They've never won. They've never been champions of Victoria. They've been premiers as recently as last year, of course, but they've never won the big one. So Oakley Cannons trying to undo the curse that's plagued them throughout their history and get one up over their biggest rivals.
Well, they have met twice this season already, and indeed they split the matchups this season. A 2-1 win for Oakley in their first meeting at Jack Edwards Reserve, and then a 1-0 win for South Melbourne at Lakeside. I mean, the second game, you were on the call for that one, Josh Parrish. That second game really broke Oakley's backs when it came to the premiership race, didn't it?
It did, and Oakley was struggling through fixture congestion and a number of injuries in that game, so there were some tired bodies out there. I don't think they could muster the energy to find an equaliser after a long throw-in, which has been a familiar route to goal for South Melbourne this season, resulted in the opening goal. South Melbourne, when they go ahead, they're so defensively disciplined, they're so difficult to break down, similar to Calder United in the women's game. So Oakley will want to score the first goal today and try and avoid the same story. Well,
I mean, South have won their past few games by a 1-0 scoreline. Scotty, Western United know a thing about winning 1-0, rode them to the... John Aloisi might not like me saying it, but you rode a bunch of them to a championship last season. Just as a goalkeeper, and I'll ask this of you as well, Bubs, how reassuring is it to know that you come into games defensively sound and you can protect one goal leads?
Yeah, well, I guess they say that defence wins your championships, and obviously it's been a theme of South Melbourne's season to be set up defensively, and if one's enough, especially in an occasion like a grand final, it doesn't matter how many goals, as long as they get enough to win the game. So I think it'll be a big defensive battle today, and I don't think there'll be much separating the teams.
Well, Bubs, Scotty was best on ground in the 2019 Grand Final, took out the Jimmy Rooney medal. Emily Shields was best on ground in the 2018 Women's Grand Final the year before that. You don't often think about Grand Finals as the goalkeeper stage, but they can be, can't they?
They certainly can, and I think if you look back to all of the wondrous occasions where the underdog has really come to the fore, it's usually because their goalkeeper has had a great game. But there are two great goalkeepers playing this evening. And I think, you know, after the season that Lopez has had with South Melbourne, and then the ability for Oakley Cannons to sign such a capable goalkeeper in Luis Italiano, it's just going to be a real tussle of the defences tonight, and it will be hard to break down either goalkeeper. But when you have a really good game as a keeper, I mean, Emily Shields had a great game for Bulleen in the women's match, but couldn't quite keep both the goals out of the net. So it'll be down to how much the goalkeepers can save their teams today, because the weather will be inclement, and it will mean that it'll level out the sides, and the game will be a disaster if a goalkeeper doesn't have a good one.
Well, Josh Parrish, as I said, you and Nick Nabano were at that last meeting between the Oakley Cannons and South Melbourne. Thinking you back to that game, casting your eyes back, did you see anything in that game that would inform your opinion of who might take this contest out?
I think South Melbourne have to be considered favourites. They have to have the edge. Even with a couple of injuries coming into this game, they've lost their leading scorer in Harry Sawyer, who, as it turns out, played too well to stay in NPL for the whole season. He's got a move for a professional contract in India. So how they replace him up top, can they find a route to goal is the main question. Marcus Schroen was the hero last time these two teams met in a grand final, and he played up top last week against Green Gully, so I'm expecting to see him up there again today. But Jai Ingham coming into the starting lineup for Andy Brennan, who went off with an injury. It's going to be interesting to see how the forward line shapes up, because it's going to be a bit of a different look to when these two teams faced each other last. But Oakley, they've got most of their players back. They've got Joe Knowles back in the starting lineup. They're at almost full strength, bar their goalkeeper situation, which they've been able to address. So I think they've got a much better chance today.
Does that surprise you that they've rolled Joe Knowles back into the starting lineup for this game, considering that, well, I mean, it's a grand final, but there's also an Australia Cup final on Wednesday for this Oakley Cannons side?
Well, he is the joint gold medal winner, so if you can get him in the team, you want him in the team. He was absolutely outstanding in his 45-minute cameo against Port Melbourne last week, and he just opens the game up for you, because he can beat players off the dribble. So that's why he's so valuable.
Well, taking our eyes and looking across at South Melbourne, and you should be seeing some highlights of South Melbourne's season thus far. They really do have a definitive brand of football. I mean, lots of balls into Harrison Sawyer, but it worked a lot. Long throw-ins, long balls over the top, but he won the Golden Boot. South won the premiership. I'll ask you first, Josh, and then I'll go to our panel. How do you think they adjust for that heading into this game? Do they keep it the same? I mean, they're starting Ingham today. Him and how do they work that out?
They don't have the same wrecking ball up front, that's for damn sure. Harry Sawyer is a massive loss, but they're still able to generate chances off those second balls with those long throw-ins and their set pieces, and they've still got plenty of aerial targets that they can send forward. Pat Langlois is remarkable in the way he pops up free off those throw-ins and set pieces, so his movement is just as important as having height in there, and they can set the centre-backs and Jankovic forward for those as well. So I think the game plan still works, and Esteban Quintas has not shown a propensity to change that game plan so late in the season after losing their leading scorer.
I mean, Bubs, as a goalkeeper, give us a bit of an insight. You're in there, you're trying to organise your defence, and then a long, high set piece comes in, or a long, high throw-in comes in. What does that do to a goalkeeper's mindset, knowing that these bombing runs are continuously coming in?
Yeah. It's the difficulty of a set piece. There's an offside line, so you can hold a line and you can come and collect things with relatively little danger. You get smashed, but very rarely if you hold a good line. But the thing with the throw-in is that anybody can stand anywhere. There's no offside on a throw-in, so it's really about the second ball. And if you can come and claim and get it without any pressure or your defenders protecting you, then you're going to come and clear, but it's always that second bouncing ball. So it's about having discipline as a team to make sure that everybody's following up and that you're protecting the goalkeeper as much as you can when the balls are coming in. The trajectory of them means that you can come and get them, but you're coming through bodies. And, anything can fall to anyone. Even the best of keepers will drop it in this weather.
And, Scotty, you've played South Melbourne in a lot of big games in the past with the Bentley Greens. Such has been the Bentley Greens form that you did get one up on South a bit more than you lost. But what's it like coming up against South with this massive fan base in these big games like this?
Yeah, it's always tough. I think I recall, or jog my memory, I think it was 17 or maybe 16. We played them in the semi-final. We were up 2-0 and they got one, and their crowd got right behind them, and then they got another, and it was the real momentum shift. So if they get on side with the team when they get a few goals, it's really hard to turn it around against South Melbourne.
I mean, we're at Olympic Village for this game. We're expecting a big crowd. I'll ask you, Scotty, and both Bubs as well. As a footballer playing in front of a big, passionate, vocal crowd, it's just got to be one of the best feelings.
Yeah, it certainly is. Obviously when you're a bit younger, you're not playing in front of many people, but as you get older, these are the games that you're going to remember, and it helps having a crowd, creating an atmosphere, and it gives you that extra edge in the game.
Bubs, what was it like for you playing in front of
I mean, it's going to be vocal here today, and it's going to be passionate. These two sides have been, absolute stalwarts in the Victorian Premier League for so long, and that's in the NPL as well. So it's amazing to see such clubs with such history battle it out today, and the fans will be, turning up just to show everybody in Australia what Victorian football is all about. A lot of the quality players come and play here for the very reason that we are passionate, and that teams want to be in the A-League because of their supporters, and there's nothing better than lifting a trophy in front of the fans that drive you week in, week out.
And Josh Parrish, I think we do actually have had a montage of some of Max Mikkela's long throw-ins. He's come down from Queensland. He's turned into an absolute weapon for South Melbourne. What have been your assessments of Max Mikkela's season for Hellas?
I mean, Max Mikkela has been absolutely outstanding in so many facets. The long throws catch the eye, of course, because that's a skill that only he has among players in the top flight. But he's also the second leading chance creator in the competition, just behind Joe Guest. So he's got a lethal left foot. He whips the ball in hard and direct, and he can pick out teammates really, really effectively. So he's always such a threat, especially in transitional situations where he's got a bit of green grass ahead of him and he can use his speed to get past opponents. And then when the game slows down and you end up getting these set-piece opportunities, he's lethal from those as well. So, yeah, Max Mikkela has been one of the outstanding players in the competition for me this season, and truly deserves all the plaudits he's been getting, and perhaps should be getting interest from A-League clubs.
Well, I mean, Scotty, the Queensland to Victoria pipeline, it's a pretty healthy one for our leagues, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. I reckon I played with about 10 or 15 Queenslanders who came through Bentley at various stages. But that just speaks volume of the NPL Victoria. It's such a strong competition, and footballers from all over the country want to come and play in Victoria.
Well, South Melbourne, they're not going to have it home way. They actually are going to have an opposition, and we'll talk about them now. The Oakley Cannons, for so long, they went with South Melbourne throughout this season. It looked like it was going to be one of them for the premiership. Towards the end of the season, maybe fixture congestion and so much responsibilities maybe fell off the pace a little bit. Port Melbourne pipped them for second place, but then ever since then, Josh Parrish, I mean, we've been waiting for the wheels to fall off at some point. When is this fatigue going to catch up with them? But it hasn't. How are they doing it?
I don't know. I mean, Chris Taylor is a manager who doesn't rotate much. He prefers not to make substitutions until late in games. I'm yet to see him make a half-time change. He's very, very old school in that fashion, and he tends to, when his team wins, he tends to stick with the same 11 players if he can. So the fact that this core group, has gone so far in the Australia Cup, they've got the match against Macarthur coming up on Wednesday night, of course. They went all the way to the Doherty Cup final, and now they're here, is a frankly incredible effort. They must be running on fumes at this point, but when you've got such big games, such big occasions, you can't help but get up for them.
And a lot of their, amazing runs of form this season have had to do with Joe Knowles. I think we're seeing a montage of his highlights this season. Co-gold medalist. First time, I think, in quite a while, if ever, we've had a tie in the gold medal. Him sharing it with Heidelberg United's Kane Shepherd. But Joe Knowles, he's off to the A-League, man. I asked him about it on Monday, and he gave the world's least convincing, we'll see, around the interest from Brisbane Roar. But what have you made of Joe Knowles this season, Josh?
He's a live wire. He's electric. The way he glides past players, defenders like they're not there, it just creates this cascading effect for opposition defences. I mean, I think South Melbourne's probably one of the only teams that have been able to pretty successfully defend against him this season, and even then he's caused them problems when he's played. So obviously he's had a tough time of it lately with a couple of injuries. They're easing him back in. Now he's starting today. But he's also been trialling with Brisbane Roar all season during the week, and then making the flights back every weekend to play for Oakley. That speaks volumes of his loyalty as a player, that he sticks with Oakley in that situation rather than just saying, thanks and success, goodbye, see ya, and jetting off to the A-League as soon as he gets the interest. But as far as we're hearing, that's a fait accompli. He's going to be playing for Brisbane Roar next year.
And Bubs, you were on the call with Josh for the Doherty Cup final when Oakley had their hearts broken against the Bentley Greens. What did you see from Oakley in that game, and do you think that will be motivating them in this grand final, that they lost that cup final in such heartbreaking circumstances?
Yeah, I saw some really good football. There was some passages of play there where I thought, wow, this team can play, and I think that's what's got them over the line a lot of the times, where they can break down opposition. There's two different styles of teams playing today. Oakley are very much play the ball out. CT is fundamental in playing some good football, and I think the fact that when you have Oakley and you have so many players that can come up in golden moments, so I think it's the last three gold medalists are in the Oakley squad. Like, I know the last two,
Joe Knowles and Joe Guest.
Yeah, but I think last 2 or 3. So the fact that you've got these capable players all over the park, and then also the fact that you've just dropped Luis Italiano into the back line, I'm just interested in to see how South Melbourne can break that down. And for me, the fact that you've got the brilliance of a Lucas as well, that can just pop up at any moment. I mean, it was a little bit lucky against Sydney FC, but you've got to be in the right moment at the right time and put it in the back of the net. And when you've got players like that all over the park, it's amazing.
You are quite right, by the way. Past 3, because Tyson Holmes won it with Bentley, and then now he's playing for Oakley. So, your stats spot on, Bubs.
Scotty, you never played under Chris Taylor, but you've certainly come up against Chris Taylor coach sides in the past. What sort of reputation does CT have that maybe our viewers from interstate aren't aware of? What sort of person, what sort of coach is he?
Yeah, obviously haven't played under him, but playing against him for quite a while, I think hard to beat would be probably the best way to describe it. And, a lot of teams with that being their DNA, hard to beat, they're teams you don't want to play against. So if they can score, I think they might even bunker in a bit, and South Melbourne might try and fight hard to break them down. But yeah, Chris is a great coach with a great record. So it'd be fitting to see him win another championship with another club today.
And we have to talk about it as well. The Oakleigh Cannons, they're on that cup run. They're going to be playing against Macarthur midweek at Jack Edwards Reserve. But just, Scotty, I wanted to ask you about the galvanising effect that can have on a group. Unfortunately for you, Sydney United got the better of Western United during this year's Australia Cup run, but you've been involved in a number of cup runs in the past with the Bentley Greens. What does that do to a group, their mindset, when the eyes of the nation descend upon you as a football team, as an NPL team?
Yeah, it's magical. I guess they say the magic of the cup. The guys are obviously playing in the NPL on the weekend, and then all of a sudden there's the whole country's watching these big cup games. And if you build momentum, obviously you see Oakley, they're into the semi-final on Wednesday, and I'll be honest, it's a bit like you sort of get punished for your success in a way, that you have such a pile-up of fixtures towards the back end of the season. But I think the players would much rather be playing games than training. So that's clearly, build the culture at Oakley. They're all jumped on, and they keep winning, and now they're in a grand final.
And, well, grand finals, Oakley Cannons versus South Melbourne. Not the first time that we've said that. These two sides met. Quite a famous grand final back in 2016. The last time that South Melbourne were crowned champions of Victoria. You should be seeing some highlights of that on your screen. Really was a famous occasion. South Melbourne getting the chocolates from that game. Marcus Schroen, the hero. It feels like he's been around forever, even though I don't even think he's in his 30s yet. But he popped up in that game. He's popped up in some big games this season. He scored the goal that won South the premiership against Dandy City. Josh, do you think, obviously I don't think any of the Oakley Cannons players were playing that day for Oakley, but the fans will remember, the administrators will remember. What do you think that previous meeting does to the mindsets of these two teams?
Well, I think Oakley will still be out for revenge from that game. They won't have forgotten the hurt of that. They've had a couple of losing grand finals in the past, so that day it was such a big crowd. It was such a spectacular contest with so many goals. I think that lives long in people's memories, and we're hoping for a similar turnout, similar atmosphere today. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't helped in that regard, but if we get a game half as good as that, I think everybody is going to be going home satisfied with money well spent coming to watch this one. And I do think Oakley are a side that is still looking to prove themselves. they're still looking to make a point and take home the championship because they are so ambitious. They're so aggressive when they go out in the transfer market. They try and sign the very best players available. They're putting their hand up for National Second Division and all these things. So it probably sticks in their craw that they still haven't toppled South Melbourne. They still haven't won a championship. So that's going to be a huge motivating factor, if not for this specific group of players, for the club as a whole.
And I did want to ask you about that, Bubs. Obviously, as mentioned, these Oakley players, they weren't playing in 2016, but when you are a player and you do come into a new club, do you assimilate those old hatreds and those old rivalries, and does the club's hatreds becomes your hatreds and that sort of stuff?
I think it's about the culture. I honestly think that if people are mentioning it, but I think for Chris Taylor, I think it's about what he wants to envelop as a team, and I think he would be envisaging a real culture among the team. Is that what we want to do from now on? And the history of the club is boldened by itself. Without winning the championships and things, they might have just needed that little bit of extra to put themselves on, the trophy cabinet or something like that. But as a culture and a club, they're just rich with that history, and I think that's what they remember. And when you do come up against your foes, you're told that this is what we are and this is what we do, and we don't lose to certain teams. And I'm sure that those things are very well communicated. But at the end of the day, it's about what you can do for the future of your club, and then leave a legacy of your own. And I think that's what CT would be talking to for this group of players.
Well, Scotty, that time in Victorian football, that period, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, really unfortunate with COVID, because it felt like Victorian football had such momentum. You had the Bentley Greens becoming the then FFA Cup specialists and introducing themselves to the nation. Heidelberg United being so dominant and recapturing the magic. South Melbourne, battling and winning grand finals and trying to figure things out and pushing for a second division. What were your memories of that time?
Yeah, it was a very, very great time in my career. Obviously, I was sort of 19 coming into Bentley, and was lucky enough to be a part of a very successful era of the club. And there was some great teams like Heidelberg. I don't think I've ever won here. I've probably come here 4 or 5 times and probably got beat 3-0 every time. So, even though that Bentley were dominating a lot of that, Heidelberg popped up and then they started winning titles. Avondale came onto the scene. Obviously, Oakley, South Melbourne. So there's so many great clubs. And, great players.
Well, we did try to catch up with the two coaches before this game. Unfortunately, South Melbourne declined our requests for a pre-game interview with Esteban Quintas. But, Josh, Esteban Quintas, he's led South Melbourne to a premiership this year. What has been your assessment of him this season, and what do you think he's going to be telling his side today?
He's a manager who I think values the effort above all else, and you can see him exert a lot of effort on the touchline. He's a bit of a Mourinho or Simeone type character, the way he's always prowling his technical area. He ran all the way down the touchline to remonstrate with the referee when Ben Jiba suffered that broken leg against Green Gully, so he always fights for his players. He favours a very direct style of football, just get the ball forward as quickly as possible. They have the second lowest passing accuracy in the league. Only second to St Albans in that stat, which for the league leaders, for the premiers, is a remarkable stat. But it just goes to show that they don't really value possession. They don't need it to win games. They just like to get the ball in the box. They cross the ball heaps. They play on the counter attack, and it works for them. And honestly, you can't argue with his record. Some people can quibble with the style of football if it's not their particular taste, but you cannot argue with the results he's been getting.
Well, we are going to hear from Chris Taylor in a minute, but it's an intriguing battle. Esteban Quintas, he hasn't been around NPL Men's Victoria very long, and it feels like he's coming up against part of the furniture here in Victorian football in CT. What do you make of those dynamics, Josh?
They couldn't be more different in terms of personas and characters on the touchline. CT is usually pretty reserved. He only makes his points when he really needs to. Same
with his subs.
Yeah, exactly. He's a pretty hands-off operator when it comes to... He tends to let the players on the field work it out, rather than the constant stream of instructions that you see coming from Quintas. Very different styles of management. Both can be really, really effective. But Chris Taylor today, coming up against his former side in South Melbourne that he was so successful with, they've never quite been the same without him. Now's their chance to finally win one without CT at the helm, whereas for him it's his chance to get one up over his old team.
Well, we were able to catch up with Oakley Cannons coach Chris Taylor before the game, so we'll bring you that now and hear what CT had to say. The Cannons head coach Chris Taylor, a very busy head coach. He's had to manage a cup run and an NPL Men's Victoria Finals campaign. Chris, how are you holding up all of these extra responsibilities you've had this time of year?
Yeah, look, it's been interesting just watching Sydney United go through to the final. So we've got one eye on Wednesday, which is going to be a big game for us against Macarthur, and obviously a grand final today. So yeah, it doesn't stop, and everything to look forward to.
I mean, you're no stranger to grand final stage. You've won trophies everywhere you've been, it seems, in Victorian football. What's the secret to succeeding on a day like today?
Well, I think it's just about being yourself and just normal routine. That's what we've tried to do this week, not change anything. The boys have had 3 training sessions. That's been very, very good, but it's been a bit low-key. It's about the guys coming here and just get doing the normal preparation and not trying to change too many things.
And you've obviously got the cup game coming up as well, midweek. Do you manage for that, or is it all hell for leather today with this game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's one game at a time, game by game. But we'll focus on today's game, and then we'll see how we pull up and probably have a recovery run, whether it's tomorrow, Tuesday, and then game on Wednesday. So yeah, it's quite a tight schedule, but we've done that so far this year and done it very, very, very well. So it's kind of suited us. I think we had 3 games in a week last week and won all 3 games extra time and beat Sydney FC, so yeah, it's all to look forward to.
Oakley Cannons head coach Chris Taylor, thank you ever so much for your time. Good luck with today's game.
Thanks very much.
Oakley Cannons coach Chris Taylor there, giving his thoughts before this contest. And I wanted to ask you, Bubs, because it feels like you've done a bit of everything in Victorian football, and Australian football. One of those roles is assistant coach to Rado Vidicic at Melbourne City's A-League women's program. So Chris Taylor coming up against his former side. Is there any sentimentality there?
I think at the end of the day, when you cross the white line, there's no sentimentality. You have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience, and I think when you are encapsulated in the environment of a club, you can really start to nut out what would make or break them. So there's some underlying things that he could take into the contest that might be of value. But at the end of the day, he's Oakley through and through now, and I wouldn't think that he would take a backward step should he get the opportunity to smash South Melbourne.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, but well, the teams are in. They should be coming up on your screen as well. We've got the graphics there, but Josh Parrish, take us through them. Who's playing, who's not? What's the go?
Well, we knew before the game that Ben Jeeba wasn't going to be able to play. He broke his fibula in a tackle against Green Gully in the semi-final, so our best wishes to him. Coming in for him is Morgan Evans, the young right-back, who did a really good job in his stead. Andy Brennan also injured in that semi-final against Green Gully. And so Jai Ingham comes in, very different sort of player. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shuffle the pack. I don't think Jai Ingham's going to play as a number 9. I suspect it will be Schroen, who filled that role once Andy Brennan had to go to the bench against Gully. I suspect it will be Schroen who moves up there, and Ingham can play off one of the flanks or as a number 10 in behind. The back 4 otherwise is unchanged. Marshall, Yankovic and Norton, the captain. So much experience amongst those players. Javi Lopez, goalkeeper of the season between the sticks. Midfield of Langua, El Mazi and whoever lines up in that 10 role, be it Mikola, Webb or Ingham. There's a lot of consistency in that lineup. On the bench, the only change is Matthew Lutrakis and Xavier Ryan come into the matchday squad, but I wouldn't expect them to play unless it's a sort of exceptional circumstances. For Oakley Cannons, there's one very notable change to the lineup, and that is Wade Decker to the bench, Joe Knowles into the starting lineup, which is huge for Oakley to have him back. Can he get through 90 minutes after his recent injury record? He only played 45 against Port Melbourne. We'll have to wait and see. I suspect we'll see Wade Decker at some point, because with 15 goals to his name this season, that's a hell of an impact.
Harsh on
sub.
Wade Decker to be put on the bench.
It is indeed. But Italiano between the sticks, the emergency goalkeeper signing after all of those injuries that Oakley had. That's been well covered on their Australia Cup run. So no 13 or 14-year-olds having to play between the sticks for Oakley Cannons.
He is here, though. He is here as a spectator.
A young man. Matt Fascini, Aaron Williams, Oscar Dillon and Anthony Pantazopoulos really come to the fore, especially in this final series. It's one to watch out for, the 19-year-old who was so good in that elimination final against Heidelberg when it went all the way to penalties. Tyson Holmes, Oliver Kubalay and Joe Guest, star-studded midfield 3, and then that front 3, Knowles, Clark and and Chris Lucas.
Well, Scotty, some familiar names there. You've played against most of those blokes. You've played with a few of those blokes. Who jumps out to you as a potential difference maker?
I think Joe Guest with his creativity today. I'm leaning towards Oakley. Him in that number 10 role is very dangerous. But one that probably hasn't been spoken about too much is Tyson Holmes. He seems to win wherever he goes. I think if he wins today, it'll be his 5th NPL title. Obviously at South Melbourne, then 3 at Bentley, and potentially another one today. So that experience, it's a grand final, it's a big game. I think the experience is going to be key, and he's someone who's certainly going to catch my attention.
Well, Scotty, there, the Oakley players to watch maybe. Bubs, who on the south side do you think could emerge as a difference maker today?
I'm actually going with Lopez as being the difference. I'm biased, but the Spaniard is crucial for South in between the sticks, because if you're going direct a lot of the time, you might succumb to that transition moment, being exposed. So I think if he's able to contest today and keep everything out of the back of the net, then the strikers just do their jobs.
Well, the words there of Scotty and Bubs to take us out. Josh, Bubs, you need to go and get ready into your commentary position. You can hear the crowds behind us are getting a bit raucous. Before you go, though, I'm going to ask you, Bubs, who's your tip?
I'm a half and half. I think it's going to go to extra time, but I'm going to say Oakley.
And Josh?
I couldn't possibly venture to predict a winner, Joe. These two teams are so closely matched. I think penalties could be the way of it, and if it does go to penalties, I have to go with the goalkeeper of the season, Harvey Lopez, to be the hero. 83% save percentage, best in the league, 15 clean sheets. He's been exceptional this year, and Italiano not having that familiarity with the Oakley back four could be a decisive factor.
Well, I'll let you get to your commentary position. Scotty, stay with me for a few more minutes as we go through the show, but wanted to ask you, now, it's the big stage. There's a lot of people watching this game. I mean, we saw Chris Nickew is here, the chairman of Football Australia. Tony Gustafsson, the head coach of the Matildas, has stuck around, and he was going to be watching that game. Saw Peter Filopoulos here, former CEO of Football Victoria, now involved with Football Australia. The eyes of the country are on this game. You used your fantastic form, your amazing success with Bentley, and you got an A-League men's contract with Western United out of that. For these players, what does it mean to be playing with the eyes of the nation on them and a chance to show what they can do outside of the A-Leagues?
Well, you said it yourself, everyone's watching. These are the games that count. It's grand final day. There's nowhere to hide out there. That's probably the thing that I realised. It's a big occasion. You've got to step up to the plate. And if you can show that you can do it on the big stage, and there's no reason why, you can't progress and find yourself in the A-League.
Because I know I am preaching to the choir here, speaking to you, speaking to the people watching this NPL Grand Final, but there's gold in them non-A-Leagues hills, isn't there, if clubs go looking for it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big advocate for the NPL. Obviously, coming through the NPL, there's some great players, and yeah, there is a bit of a transition phase when you do obviously go professional, but there's so many good players out here, and I think there's players that deserve opportunity.
And you mentioned it before, that mindset, the grand final mindset. They're in the rooms now. There's 10 minutes until kickoff. They're getting their last words. They're sitting there, I imagine. Is there silence? Is there music? I don't know. I've never been in that sanctum. But 10 minutes to go. What's the feeling in the rooms?
Oh, look, I'm sure there's a few nerves. Nerves are good. It means you care. But, we can all talk, we can all say, but it's about doing today. I'm sure there's some vocal characters in both change rooms getting the lads up for the big occasion, but it's all about what happens out on the park today.
And I'll ask you for your tip, mate. Who you got, Oakley Cannons or South Melbourne?
I think Oakley in extra time.
There we go. And I will tip the Oakley Cannons inside 90 as well, but I couldn't possibly predict the final scoreline. But stick around, kick off, all the pre-game ceremonies coming your way. Stick with us.
Goes for goal, and it's diverted.
An absolute screamer!
Whip it in. Alan Webb!
South Melbourne do take the lead.
Lanich skies it into the back of the net.
It all comes down to this, the 2022 NPL Men's Victoria Grand Final, presented by Chenol. Big thank you to Chenol for their steadfast support of Victorian football and for being the partners of the NPL Victoria Final Series since 2019. Josh Parrish here alongside Melissa Barbieri for the decider. It's the decorated 10-time Victorian champions, 4-time national champions in South Melbourne, who have brought a massive crowd along with them to try and see their team lift their 11th title, their first since 2016. The beaten finalists that day were the Oakley Cannons, the noisy neighbours, the upstarts, the ambitious club from Melbourne South East, who are yet to win a championship here in Victoria. 2-time premiers, of course, including the 2021 belatedly awarded title. Melissa Barbieri is my co-caller this evening. Bubs, what are you expecting from this contest with this crowd gathering? It's starting to build.
It is starting to build. I'm really, it's giving me goosebumps to look out amongst the crowd and seeing it fill up. I think it was a great decision by FV to move the ground to a ground that could seat the capacity of the people that wanted to come out to this evening's match, and I think the weather has probably changed the mind of a few patrons, but I feel like everybody has come to support their teams, and there'll be a lot of neutrals in the venue as well, because we've just missed this high-level capacity football for so long. And I think a lot of people just wanted to show their support for both teams and for Victorian football in general. The actual contest will be amazing. I feel like any grand final, it'll be the first 10 minutes of nutting each other out, trying to find their feet. I dare say there will be some challenges, unfortunately, for South Melbourne. They know the anguish of a late challenge, after Benjiba going off early minutes last week. So both teams will look to challenge really fiercely in the first 10, try and get that early goal and then hold on to that lead. It'll be the weather that actually equals the team. It's like the ultimate equaliser, having this sort of weather. So I'm hoping that it brings out the best in both teams and that we don't have too many untoward challenges early on. But no doubt there'll be a great refereeing display as well to this evening.
I'm so looking forward to this, Bubs. It's just as well we've got this nice big grandstand to accommodate all these supporters, because it's a very wet night here in Victoria. The weather held off for the women's grand final in the afternoon, but the heavens have opened, so we're contending with a few drips coming through the scaffold up here as well. But I mean, this is what these nights are all about. We've so missed this since the great spectacle of 2019 that went all the way to penalties. Ryan Scott, who's on the broadcast with us today, the hero. We've had so much drama in this final series as well, especially that Heidelberg Oakley elimination final.
Wasn't it fantastic?
3-3, 2 last-minute equalisers, both in normal time and extra time. And speaking of goalkeepers, one who's not playing today is Nick Feely, who saved 3 penalties with a torn hip flexor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just incredible. Some of the stories that have come out of this season, and Oakley in particular, seem to be having this charmed run at the moment.
Yeah, I was thinking about how much confidence builds by beating an A-League team coming into finals, and I feel like the fact that they have to play so many games might actually bode well for them, because that means they're not training, they're not having to think about other things and manage that time. It's basically rest, recover, play, and they're almost in tournament mode. Like if you go deep into a tournament like a World Cup or something, these are the games that you thrive for, and these are the games that you actually have to peak for. So I don't think it's out of Oakley's endeavours to be able to rise for the occasion, even though they have another match on Wednesday. I think they're just riding that wave of confidence, and I'm sure the fans being here and supporting them will get them over the edge. Even though South Melbourne are an amazing team, they have some really top-class players and defenders. In terms of strikers and defenders, it's like anything. A grand final is the one that you want to peak for, and I think it's absolutely wonderful to be here tonight and being able to witness this firsthand, not on a Zoom meeting.
Absolutely not. Well, for those of you who can't be here tonight and are joining us on the live stream, we hope we can do the occasion and the atmosphere justice, as the players are slightly delayed coming out for kickoff. We're going to have a slightly delayed start here, but we can see the players in the tunnel now, ready to come out, leading their teams, Brad Norton and Tyson Holmes, 2 veterans of Victorian football who've had such dedicated careers. Match referee tonight, Lachlan Keevers, referee of the year, sporting the moustache. He'll be the man in the middle tonight. And here goes Luis Italiano, the new arrival, straight into the mix. Straight into the deep end for Luis Italiano. His 3rd spell with Oakley, so it's a club he knows well. Obviously has A-League experience from his time with the Jets and with the Wellington Phoenix, but parachuted straight in such high-pressure games where you haven't played with any of these guys before. It's a big test for him today.
I would think so, but I feel like he's had a few weeks to get to know them now. I mean, that Sydney FC game, he might have been, you would have given him the benefit of the doubt if he didn't know people's names or anything like that. But as a goalkeeper, I know myself that as soon as I arrive into a team, I'm trying to learn people's names. I'm trying to speak to them as much as I can. And the player that Luis Italiano is, I think he just rides that wave of ambition, and he wants to help Oakley. Yes, he's been there before, so he has some loyalty lying there. And obviously, Oakley know him well enough to actually ask him to come play for them this time round when they had the dispensation for having no goalkeepers. What is it with goalkeepers at the moment? I know a couple of the NPLW teams actually had a lot of trouble with injuries as well. So, good luck to all the goalkeepers out there recovering from their rehab, especially from the Oakley Cannons lineup.
I believe we're going to have a moment's silence before kick-off to mark the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Now we'll pause for the Australian National Anthem.
I'll go get him. Sure.
Okay, here we go. The 2022 Chenol NPL Victoria Grand Final. South Melbourne versus Oakley Cannons. We'll take you through the teams before kickoff. Two changes to the starting lineup for South Melbourne. Ben Juba suffering a broken leg against Green Gully in the semi-final, replaced by Morgan Evans. Jai Ingham comes in for Andy Brennan, who went off with a groin injury. Other than that, it's the same lineup that served them so well, taking out the Premier's plate this season. Harvey Lopez between the sticks. Evans joining Marshall, Yankovic and Norton in the back line. Pat Langlois and Liram Elmazi make up the double pivot. And a front four of Marcus Schroen, Alan Webb, Max Mikola and Jai Ingham. On the bench, potential impacts substitutes are Chris Irwin and Josh Wallen, while Matthew Latrakis, Perry Lambropoulos are the defensive depth, and Chris Kuznin is the backup goalkeeper. Xavier Ryan also making the promoted to the matchday squad. Oakley Cannons have emergency signing Lewis Italiano between the sticks. Matt Fascini, Aaron Williams, Oscar Dillon and Anthony Pantazopoulos are the back four. Tyson Holmes and Oliver Kubalay is the midfield pairing in front of them, with Joe Guest, the 2019 Football Victoria gold medalist, and the Bill Fleming medalist, the media player of the year this season, the leading chance creator in the competition, one to watch out for. Chris Lucas and Joe Knowles coming into the starting lineup, replacing Wade Decker are the options on the wings. Daniel Clark will play up front. Nick Ganakis, Alan Kukarich, Steve Sakalarios, Nick Niagorian and Mario Barcia are the substitutes available to Chris Taylor, as well as Wade Decker, with 15 goals to his name this season. Is a hell of an option to have off the bench, Bubs.
Yeah, he's certainly one to have to be dangerous off the bench. I mean, that's at the end of the day, when you are playing in a grand final, you're going to have to look to everyone. And a lot of them might be disappointed that haven't started this evening, but each of them are dangerous in their own right, and especially the ones coming off the bench. They need to know that they can impact the game, whether they've scored 15 or not in a season.
It will be South Melbourne to kick us off in their home blue strip. From right to left, Oakley Cannons in their aways, the all-white. Here we go. Will it be South Melbourne to add to their stacked trophy cabinet? Or will it be the Oakley Cannons who finally break their championship drought? The Clarendon corner. Now the corner of Olympic Village in full voice as we get underway. Tyson Holmes winning that header. Out to Pantazopoulos. Takes a heavy touch, trickles into the path of Joe Knowles. Pantazopoulos advancing. So unsurprising run from the teenager. And he's won himself a corner in the early moments of this grand final.
What a rise by Pantazopoulos, right? I mean, you know, it's great to see a young player break into the senior squad and, you know, make a play for it right in the dying moments. I don't think he would have thought that he'd be playing in a grand final at this stage.
He seized his opportunity with both hands this year. What can they find off the corner kick? It's a dangerous delivery, and Oakley Cannons take the lead. My goodness. 48 seconds is all it took. Aaron Williams up from the back, meeting the cross and powering it into the back of the net, and Harvey Lopez was powerless. Oakley Cannons stunning this heavily partisan South Melbourne crowd.
Absolutely lovely ball whipped in, and he just got ahead of the South Melbourne defender, Brad Norton, and he nods it home. I actually think Brad Norton was actually holding space for Lopez to come and get it, and he's just nodded it home whilst there was this miscommunication. The ball absolutely whipped in there.
There's a superb delivery from Joe Knowles, the in-swinger. And Brad Norton, of all players, losing his man inside the 6-yard box. South Melbourne, so disciplined, so strong off set pieces. A real shock inside the opening moment, and Oakley are in dreamland.
I actually think a lot of defenders know that feeling of you're trying to hold space, you're trying to back into your marker, and then just lose them for a fraction of a second. And when you can stick out your head like that and win the ball in an aerial challenge, especially on a night like this where it could glance off any part of the body, you got to really attack those in the 6-yard box.
Well, he's not the tallest defender, Aaron Williams, but he certainly made himself big there.
That's exactly what you want from a centre-back. You know, those dead ball situations is when the centre-backs come to the fore because they're used to heading the ball out from goal kicks and things like that.
Well, he had to man the centre of the Oakley defence almost on his lonesome for parts of this year, with Oscar Dillon out due to a long-term injury and Jacob Eliopoulos going down with an ACL early on. He's held down the fort, and that's his third goal of the season from central defence, so he's certainly capable. But I don't think anyone expected that inside the opening minute. And that really sets the cat amongst the pigeons now. What can South Melbourne do in response? El Mazi. Mikola battling for it. Tyson Holmes down the line for Lucas. He's met by Marko Jankovic, and it's into touch. Now, Bubs, you're very vocal about goalkeepers and set pieces coming for the ball. Yeah. Harvey Lopez, as good as he's been this year, should he have come for that cross?
I don't think so, because it went away from him. It was coming in last minute, so that's why the delivery of the cross or the corner was so unbelievable, because he can't come get it because it's so far away, and then it bends right at the last moment. And the ability for, you know, defenders to read the ball as it's coming in is also critical.
It's in dangerously again, and nearly a second for Oakley. Daniel Clark with the delivery, beating his man for pace down the wing. It's not the kind of run you usually associate with Daniel Clark, or the kind of position he usually takes up.
I feel like Lopez is just a little bit in no man's land at the moment. I think he's trying to be in a negative position. I really think he needs to step up in this moment. There's this gap between the defenders and the goalkeeper that is being well exposed by Oakley. No doubt that you have to give them some credit, but South Melbourne just struggling with the balls in behind at the moment.
In low by Knowles. This time it's met by Williams again. Almost a stunning double for the central defender. Not far wide. Didn't make clean contact as he would have liked.
No, this could have been a second one for Oakley. It's funny enough that probably having it come to his feet might have been that dilemma.
All right, we're going to see if we can go down to Joey Lynch on the sidelines. It's all happening here. South Melbourne battle for this ball. Almazi over the top will stay with play. Alan Webb. What can he muster from the right flank? Williams in the way and Oakley get it clear. Hit long by Joe Knowles. It'll be a throw in for South Melbourne. Joey Lynch, what have you got for us?
Well, Josh, wanted to point out there just in the immediately before Oakley's corner there, Joe Guest looks like he picked up a bit of a knock and he's been moving around just a bit gingerly since. Something to keep an eye on. Obviously this year's Bill Fleming medalist, Media Player of the Year. He looks like he's moving now, but something to keep in mind as the game goes on in these cold and wet conditions.
Joe Guest, Oakley's star man, in a bad way, but Joe Knowles looking to take it on himself. What a stunning hit that was, and not far away from one of the all-time great grand final goals. Joe Knowles, my goodness.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant piece of pressing by Oakley, and they picked up possession, and no doubt when you look up and you see your keeper who has just been playing out off their line, you certainly want to give it a crack, and certainly gave it a good try.
Well, he's the most prolific shot taker in the competition, Joe Knowles. And now it's Lucas with the delivery, punched by Lopez. Ball has crossed the touchline.
Like call by the linesman, he put up his flag and said that it was a foul right before the touchline.
In fact, quite right, Bubs. It's a free kick. In a great position for Oakley.
It's dangerous, especially that Oakley have already scored one from a set piece. And now with this angle taking place, Lopez might find it difficult to have a good wall. We were talking about set pieces for South Melbourne. We didn't remember that Oakley were actually quite great at set pieces as well.
Well, it will be Joe Guest. In swinging delivery to the back post. And it's a kind bounce in the end. Would you believe it? Aaron Williams was there again. They can't seem to mark him off these set pieces.
No, it's a wicked wind, a little bit of assistance there, and the slice of the ball. South Melbourne just can't get their foot on it. Lucas
feeds it through, looking for Knowles. Lopez quickly off his line, comes in with the feet this time.
That's better from Lopez. He's a little bit more aggressive. He's not allowing the defensive high line to dictate his position now.
Here's Pat Langlois. Haven't seen him too much on the ball. Oakley have just started with such ferocious intensity. South Melbourne are really struggling to settle.
They are, and I think the fact that Chris Taylor knows this his opposition so well, and he's such an experienced campaigner in terms of coaching in this league, that he knows what it's like to be in this position and what it needs in the first 10 or 15. I think I've mentioned it a few times today over the course of the day, but grand finals, it's about the first 10 or 15 minutes. If you can capitalise in the first 10 or 15 and hold on, that's the critical part. I mean, they had it against, in the cup.
Alan Webb has drifted offside there.
They had it in the cup and then they let it slip. So they've definitely learnt that you've got to put pedal to the metal the whole time after you've gone up.
And we'll see how this South Melbourne front four have shaped up now. Marcus Schroen indeed is playing as an emergency centre forward.
Yep.
Usually a central midfield player, but very capable of scoring goals. Max Mikula drifted inside into a number 10 position. We're more accustomed to seeing him on one of the flanks. Webb and Ingham, two wide players. Might be something that Esteban Quintas looks to tweak if they can't get Max Mikula into the game, because he's been very quiet so far. Schroen helping it on.
I was always thinking that, it would be a battle of the midfield, because South Melbourne are so used to the ball going over the midfield's heads that maybe once they need to play, it might be a little bit more difficult. And certainly Oakley capitalising on that fact.
Well, here we go for the first time tonight. Max Mikula trying desperately to get this ball dry enough.
And that's the benefit of having a throw-in. They've got two players on the keeper.
Get some decent distance on it. Not up to his usual standards, I must say.
It's wet.
And I think the wet is playing into Oakley's hands. Oliver Kubalay. Pass cut out by Evans. It looks like Chris Lucas is appealing for, or Joe Knowles, I should say, is appealing for a handball against Evans on the ground there. Would have been a harsh one.
Yeah, but you could see the fact that South Melbourne are putting two players right on Luis Italiano because he's in advanced position, because as a goalkeeper, you want to come for those long throws. But he couldn't get enough purchase, Max Mikula, on the throw.
It's Daniel Clark, who's drifted into a channel again. Oakley throw in, deep in opposition territory.
It's not playing into South Melbourne's hands, that's for sure.
Well, so far there's an upset on the cards. South might have an opportunity in transition here. Mikula with the eyes up, spots the run of Jai Ingham. Even a player as quick as him. A bit of contact there between Oscar Dillon and Jai Ingham. Knowles flicks it over his own head. Guest, a sliver of a header on it. And better safe than sorry from Marko Jankovic. South not having it all their own way. Might go down to Joey Lynch on the sideline again.
Well, Josh, I can tell you that South Melbourne coach Esteban Quintas is keeping a keen count of the number of Oakley Cannons free kicks and the number of occasions he feels as though his side should have had a free kick, such as that last instance there when Ingham was sent flying but wasn't rewarded. But I'm standing here next to Scotty on the sideline under the umbrella, and Scotty, you've noticed something about Oakley Cannons set pieces.
Yeah, they look very dangerous. Aaron Williams seems to be the one that's getting free, and he's made first contact on 3 occasions, obviously one resulting in the opener.
So Aaron Williams looks to be feasting from those set pieces, Josh.
He's been absolutely outstanding so far. Can't seem to mark him. What did you make of those theatrics in front of you, gentlemen? Tyson Holmes and Jai Ingham getting into it a little bit.
All the sense of occasion, Josh.
Wouldn't be a grand final without it, would it?
Absolutely not.
I feel like Oakley have a lot of game management up their sleeve at this moment. 1-0 up, you certainly can afford it.
Masters of the dark arts.
They are.
Especially Tyson Holmes. He has a rare gift for that kind of thing. Outstanding footballer as well, of course. But he's a street smart player, that's for damn sure. Ingham couldn't keep the ball in play. He was throwing for Fashini. Well, both teams contending with the elements tonight, as are we in our up in our scaffold here. Oakley certainly enjoying the wet conditions more than South are. Schroen, too heavy. Oakley gained some territory on this right-hand side. Clark. Lay off from Guest, and now Fashini, a little disappointed with that delivery. Shake of the head as soon as it left his boot. He knew it wasn't what he intended. Pandazopoulos, almost unbeatable when he gets a running start in those aerial duels.
Yeah, he's got about a 50 centimetre jump. Standing. From a standing start.
Schroen. It's the one thing South have in their favour at the moment, is that although they are a goal down, it's a nightmare start in a grand final. They've still got that crowd backing them all the way, and you can hear the chanting and singing going on, the fans trying to lift their team back into the contest.
Yeah, it's a culture of winning too. They do a lot of winning, so they know they're not out of the contest. It's only one goal.
A long way to go in this grand final. Williams for Dillon. One's going to skid all the way through to Harvey Lopez off the very, very slick turf. Mikola. Little pocket of space here for Max Mikola, South Melbourne's creator-in-chief, and he puts the head down and runs. Met by a thunderous challenge from Fashini. All ball. Jankovic, his clearance ricochets off his own man. Now Brad Norton lumping it all the way through to Lewis Italiano, who's copping some boos from the South fans. Wasn't a popular decision from their side of the fence to let Oakley sign an emergency goalkeeper, but
no,
it's either him or the 13-year-old. So.
Yeah. I think that when you've only got one keeper left, registration-wise, you've got to opt for the adult in the group. At least they picked someone who's actually played for Oakley before.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe his Reggio's still valid from last time. Yeah. There's a bit of a set to here again.
I really feel for officials. Like, how much is it play acting? How much is it real? You don't want to be, taken for a fool as a referee, but it's very hard to distinguish what's real and what's not in some cases.
Lockie Keevers doesn't tend to buy into
any
of that sort of play acting. He's very much a no-nonsense official.
Pretty astute in that caper.
Great delivery from Chris Lucas. Daniel Clark, the target, just too high for him, but he had the lead on his marker again. They're struggling to track these runs, South Melbourne.
Yeah, I feel like they're not giving enough credit or enough respect to those balls being whipped in. They've got to really shut down the players in the wide area.
A lot of space and time for those deliveries.
And maybe the fact that Oakley has played so much football is boding well for them. I mean, we always talk about how much fatigue they could be enduring, but it's also about how much minutes they've been playing and how good you can be when you're so cohesive as a team.
Yeah, and so well conditioned.
Yes.
The delivery from Joe Knowles this time, met by Norton. Ingham taking 2 touches to try and find a target in transition, but Oscar Dillon should deal with this ball and does.
See, and even in that instance, Dillon's calling his keeper to come out and get it, but it doesn't travel all the way to him, so you've got to be really communicating with your back line.
It's Joe Guest helping that one over the top. Lucas hops to the turf. No change out of the officials this time. Fashini into Guest. Jankovic lines that one up on his left boot. Put down by Max Mikola. Sprays a long diagonal to Webb, but they're not on the same wavelength. They're not connecting in those moments.
Yeah, I think direct play is good, but if you can't bring it down in this weather, it's really, really difficult, because anything that slides through with such tenacity. You've got to have your touch on point.
Here goes Tyson Holmes. He's got space to run into here. The Oakley Cannons captain feeds Lucas. Rides the challenge of Brad Norton and successfully appeals for the goal kick by the South Melbourne skipper.
I think Brad Norton has taken the first goal to heart, and he's really making sure that nothing else comes through his left-back position.
How on earth did Tyson Holmes get that much space in position? Surely midfield pairing should be manning that area.
Yeah, this is where South Melbourne are really struggling. They're struggling in that midfield. Langlois especially, not getting enough of the ball.
Pantazopoulos fouled as he jumped. Williams will take it quickly. Here goes Joe Knowles. He loves these one-on-ones, and he's running at a young fullback. Skips past Evans, who catches up with him. Knowles whips it in. Headed away by Jake Marshall. Now Kubalay's delivery is a good one. Headed away by Yankovic and cleared by Ingham, who is all the way back doing his defensive duties. Again, it breaks down through Almazi's clearance. Groans of frustration from the South Melbourne fans. The team have really struggled for possession so far. It's not always something that they value or that they look for, but when you're a goal down, expectations of your supporters are that you'll take the initiative.
Yeah, and you're not really drawing any defenders out by playing through the middle to start with, so playing something over the top and being direct is quite difficult.
Marshall's header away.
So you're going to have to change up your game plan. You're going to have to start playing into feet, playing a little bit different to get what you want as an end result.
Knowles. Turn pass doesn't quite connect. Evans wrong foots Langlois with the pass. Knowles stinks it back to Oscar Dillon. Fed into the feet of Kubalay. Knowles coughing up possession that time, and now Max Mikola can spring the counter. He was waiting for a runner that never arrived. Manages to pick out Langlois though. Webb with the delivery into the box, but Marcus Strowan just a step late. Well dealt with by Aaron Williams, the goal scorer.
That's what I was talking about, getting Langlois on the ball, making sure that he can feed passes, draw the Oakley defenders out, and you could see they were preempting the wide pass and actually exposed the central area for Langlois to pick it up and play it in behind. It's the first time they've really tried to play some 2 feet football, and you know they've got some reward from it.
And certainly a more patient approach that time.
Yeah.
Composure from Mikola, who's now the man launching this long throw. Yankovic battling for it. Webb wouldn't sit for him. Take 2 for Max Mikola.
Certainly not a position you want to be giving away throw-ins for South Melbourne, but he's not able to throw as far. He's asked one of the ball kids for a shirt to wipe the ball down. Give me a new one, he says, so I can actually throw it in like I'm meant to.
Mikola, reasonable distance on this one. Yankovic bundled over the line for a corner.
Yeah, it's the second balls. They're trying to hold on to Yankovic. He's obviously the target.
It's the obvious aerial threat, Marko Yankovic.
And also Marshall in there as well. Tall timber.
The front post for Langlois doesn't get to him. Kubalay rising highest. Now Evans back in to the edge of the area, but Williams heads away. And here goes Chris Lucas. He's got Joe Guest on the outside. Oakley, they're so lethal in these situations, but not on that occasion. Joe Knowles couldn't make contact.
Great clearance by Pantazopoulos too, just making sure he does the right thing in that moment.
Holmes. Lobbed into Daniel Clark. Can't win the contested header. Misses everybody.
Can we just talk about Daniel Clark for a second? His pressing, his work rate up top, he's very rarely spoken of in terms of his defensive prowess. Does a lot for Oakley. Unsung.
Former South Melbourne player, of course. Common theme for several players in this side. He's a coach's favourite, isn't he? The hard worker.
Oh, there.
Does the dirty work.
Relentless, but then you're given the ball in great opportunities and great positions to finish.
South Melbourne free kick. A little straight for a cross into the box, although with Max Mikkela's left peg, they might try and curve this one into the danger zone. Oakley holding a nice high line, which will please Melissa Barbieri.
Yeah, keep him away from the keeper for as long as possible so that he can come out.
Just wait for this free kick. Joey Lynch, have you got something for us?
Well, yes. There's been a special delivery out there on the ground, you might see. Bradley Norton was handed a pair of gloves and has sent them to Max Mikkela's direction. Scotty, I think you've picked out why?
Yeah, I think obviously that long throw in with the torrential rain that's pouring, it seems quite difficult to be able to get it as far as you'd like into the box.
So hence the sartorial change.
It's laid off short. It's a rehearsed routine from this free kick as the newly gloved Max Mikkela runs out of room.
Unless that has grip on it, I'm not sure. Well, it could. It could be a pair of golfing gloves or gym gloves.
Those gloves regulation. What are the rules at play here?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of players glove up in terms of it's cold, but it's not really cold. It's just wet.
Imagine that the hands are getting pretty numb though in the rain.
Yeah, it is legal though, so we can't say anything.
Dinked over the top, looking for Alan Webb, who has the burst of speed.
Wow.
But what a tackle that is! Incredible last-ditch defending. Anthony Pantazopoulos, take a bow.
That is ridiculous. Oh, the timing of the challenge in your 18-yard box.
Corner's in there.
Monstrous.
Oakley defence scrambles it away. Daniel Clark back to help out the centre forward. Anthony Pantazopoulos just in mid-air.
Yeah.
It looked as if Webb was onto that one. Looked like a clear opening for South Melbourne. He's taken such a huge risk because you have to get that right.
Yeah, the transition moment for South Melbourne was critical. That's the first time they've been able to expose Oakley.
Well, Max Mikkela. Will the gloves do the trick? Gets some good distance that time. Webb on the edge of the area. And it was nearly a repeat of his goal in the Green Gully game last week, the semi-final.
Oh, that's good coaching. That's great analysis. They know the fact that you can't leave certain players with time and space in certain areas, and that's just formidable defending.
Looks like the Oakley players were watching last week. Took some notes. Don't let Alan Webb hit one on the edge of the area.
The players weren't watching. That's video analysis, guys.
Coaches do all that hard work for them.
You just get told the outcome.
Evans.
Italiano
comes and doesn't claim. The whistle has eventually gone.
That's a big call.
It was a late call too.
I feel like he was dropping that before he was hit. He was dropping that before he was hit, but you can't have a replay for referees, that's for sure.
Well, keepers tend to get the benefit of the doubt in those situations.
That's right. But I did say even the best of keepers will drop something under duress in the box here.
Bit of a nervy moment for Luis Italiano.
He gets that one back, he'll be relieved.
Joey Lynch, Ryan Scott, if you're there on the touchline, what did you make of that call? Went in the goalkeeper's favour. As if we don't have them present at the moment. We'll go down to the touchline shortly. Big tackle flying in. Aaron Williams will be the first man in the book, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yellow card coming out. It was on South Melbourne's star man.
Certainly a dangerous moment, especially in the wet. Players are going to have to be careful with the tackles they choose and in what position.
He was just off balance. He was on the ground.
He was already on the ground, but then when you lay in a challenge like that,
It's not a pretty one, is it? And I think they're especially sensitive to that kind of situation, South, after what happened to Ben Jeeba last week. And just the yellow card.
It was almost like he was already in that position and didn't change his foot stance to point his toe or anything. So it may have looked more dangerous than it was intended.
I don't think there was any malice in it.
No,
I
just think it was awkward.
On the deck, and
maybe he thought he would slide a little bit more. Yeah.
So it's difficult to readjust his body in time. He's a bit late to it. Oh, Mikola, good to see, back up on his feet, walking a tad gingerly there.
Yep.
After getting some treatment from the South physio, able to stay on the pitch after the yellow card comes out for
those ones
Aaron
do
Williams,
hurt.
which welcome change to the rules.
Below the shin pad.
You see Marcus Schroen has taken over set piece duties temporarily while his teammates are walking wounded.
Oh, bouncing, wow.
Allowed to bounce in the penalty area. Pantazopoulos gets it away.
Ooh.
And now almost a retaliatory foul from Mikola, and he will get a yellow card as well. Joe Knowles, the recipient. But Max Mikola needs to be very careful here. Seems to have lost his rag.
He does. It's a moment of frustration for Mikola, maybe. It's hard to say, but Oakley are asking for the physio here. But obviously the referee's asked that he just continue. He won't be asking Oakley Cannons to bring on the medico. He could have, because it was a yellow card challenge, but opted to get up and run it off.
Well, it's a hot-tempered affair so far.
Yeah.
It often is between these two sides.
Big job for Evans up against Knowles too.
Absolutely, is a pretty inexperienced player.
Yeah.
Coming up against the gold medalist.
I did call him Pantazopoulos before. I get the two youngsters mixed up.
Young fullbacks.
Young fullbacks.
Mikola stopped in his tracks. Knowles. Early delivery straight into the arms of Javi Lopez. Well, South seem to have stabilised at least.
Yeah, they're playing a little bit more to their strengths.
Here come Oakley. Joe Guest feeding the ball in behind. Marshall will stick it into touch. And we've got an injury problem on the far side. Joe Knowles is down once again. It would be an absolute sickener to lose him.
Yeah, it's just, I wonder if he's struggling with the injury that he already had or if it's a new one.
Don't know if our men on the sideline have any insight at this point. Joey Lynch?
Well, there's nobody warming up on the Oakley Cannons bench, Josh Parrish, so if Knowles does have to come off, which it doesn't look like he will, he's standing up, they're going to be caught unprepared. It's interesting, Knowles now, he's been taken down heavily twice, and he was holding his hamstring about 10 or so, 15 minutes ago. It looked like he was running it off, but yet another player that's in the wars for Oakley. There is a bit of feeling seeping into this one. Esteban Quintas increasingly vocal on the sideline in the aftermath of that heavy challenge on Ingham. His complaint started in English before devolving into a mix of Spanish and Greek, but his counterpart, Chris Taylor, he's standing in his technical area, but much more reserved. I mean, to quote Patrick from SpongeBob, he's just sort of standing there menacingly. Nowhere near as much noise coming from Chris Taylor.
Corner taken by Oakley. Norton heads to the edge of the box for Sheeny. fancied it, but sliced it over the crossbar, the former South Melbourne man.
This time Norton attacking that ball in that 6-yard box. He's not letting anything come through.
When the Spanish starts coming out, that's where you know the temper's really flared from Esteban Quintas. Again, a big collision and a few words afterwards between Foschini and Mikola. Not holding back when it comes to South Melbourne star man. Norton brings it down on the chest, lovely touch. Gets the return pass from Ingham. Norton teases it to the back post. It'll sit for Webb, and it's blocked by Aaron Williams.
I was just about to say, I can really feel the pendulum swinging a little bit in South Melbourne's way. I feel like they are starting to get a little bit more possession, starting to look a little bit more dangerous.
Well, that was nicely worked from South Melbourne. Little 1-2 between Brad Norton and Jai Ingham. First we've seen Norton get all the way to the byline.
Overlapping run is really important.
Mikola to the near post again. Can't find Langlois. Knocks it back. The early delivery. Jai Ingham again can't find a teammate, and the decision goes Oakley's way for the throw.
Williams doing it all for Oakley, scoring goals, getting headers in the 18-yard box up top, and then delivering some deft touches as the defending header and really clearing it to non-dangerous areas, which is really important.
He was the man in the way when that shot came in from Alan Webb. Probably didn't hit it quite as well as he would have liked.
It's more about your technical prowess in these conditions more than the power side of things.
El Marzi, first time ball, picks out Norton. Crosses straight onto the head of Oscar Dillon. South Melbourne teasing, probing, trying to find an avenue to goal. They haven't been behind too often this season in games. Been the league leaders for most of the campaign. Ooh, that's a cynical challenge from El Marzi, but advantage will be paid. Guest out to Chris Lucas. Joe Knowles back onto his feet now after being on the receiving end of that shirt pull. Ball spills out to Alan Webb, and now South Melbourne have a few numbers forward. Look at Alan Webb go round the outside, but Aaron Williams covering.
Look at South Melbourne looking to transition swiftly after they saw Foschini release himself on the right-hand side. The Oakley players couldn't get the ball to him, which meant they were exposed at the back. That quick moment of South Melbourne transition where they're the most formidable.
Handball against El Marzi.
It's interesting to note that there was no yellow card given for the cynical challenge that played on for. I thought definitely it would be.
That's one Oakley Keevers could have brought back if he so chose.
Could have. Certainly wouldn't. They weren't in a goal scoring opportunity yet, but if that's second half, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe let a few go in the first half just to try and keep 11 players on the pitch.
Yeah. And that wasn't too rough. Just enough rough.
Kubalay. Norton. To Schroen. Miscontrol. It's had a quiet evening so far, Marcus Schroen. Drop back into the midfield now. So we get a few more touches, but meanwhile it's Joe Knowles weaving his magic. Early delivery. El Marzi goes down. Knocked in the back by Joe Guest. South Melbourne able to regroup. Smart play from El Marzi there.
Certainly using his body to attract the foul. Even though you're not meaning to foul, it's still a foul. As he's collected his Achilles. And another great use of the body there.
Fashini. Holmes. Goes to ground. Schroen. Great delivery that for Alan Webb. Inches away. Marcus Schroen, what a pass that was. And Alan Webb popping up on the far side. Just nicks at the wrong side of the post.
Schroen absolutely delivering a ball on a platter. He had to do a little bit to get it on target. And that diving shot, that diving volley, couldn't quite steer it home, but I'm afraid Italiano would have been beat there had it been on target.
South Melbourne starting to create a few big chances, and Alan Webb is the man they're falling to.
I think Oakley are playing too much for the free kicks. It's what happened in the Doherty Cup. They started to play for fouls. They were 1-0 up. They started to play for fouls. They weren't getting any, and then cop 2 on the run.
Here goes Joe Knowles, one-on-one with Langlois. Knowles fires it across goal. It needed a telling touch that never arrived. Daniel Clark inches away from Oakley's second. Another nearly moment.
Certainly had every right to go for goal there, but he's looked to pick out Clark. And just a minuscule of a touch would have got it on target.
He hit the cross like a shot.
Yes.
Trying to catch the defence out. In the end, it was too quick for Daniel Clark as well. Guest.
Those ones, you know, the goalkeeper has to come and protect the front post. So you know that back post is open.
Comes Aaron Williams. Tyson Holmes, delicate dink into the channel. Lucas. This dribble was well read by Morgan Evans. Now Langlois. Mikola. El Marzi hit first time. And Langlois the same, but comes off the wrong side of his boot.
South Melbourne have to get Langlois on the ball. Schroen as well. As much as they can, they need to play into feet. Expose that defender, like just to come out and really put pressure on you, and then you can open up the space in behind.
You see Mikola playing as an out-and-out number 9 now. Marcus Schroen dropping back into the midfield. Again, the loss of Harrison Sawyer looms large in South Melbourne's season.
Yeah.
Different side without him. Still a very capable side, but
It'd be interesting to see how long Jai Ingham can play in the game. It's always been a question of mine is why he doesn't start more games. Maybe he is that impact player. Maybe he has that role, or is there some other, injury factor or, minutes played that needs to be looked at.
Mikola with another long launch into Langlois, who had to run backwards to try and get ahead on it. It's difficult to generate any sort of power or direction off that header.
Yeah, and then they're not really exposing that second layer of defending. When you can't clear the first defender, it's really difficult to get that second ball bounce and fall to one of your players. But Oakley doing really hard, disciplined work in terms of the set pieces in throw-ins against South.
Knowles. Up against Marko Jankovic, goes to the byline. Low delivery is cut out by Marshall. Now Mikola, the good win with his back to goal, but his teammates pass, cannons off him. Ingham just smashing the ball into Max Mikola there as he was trying to pick out Alan Webb. Free kick goes Oakley's way.
How has Fashini come up with the ball in that little array of touches is ridiculous. He was trying to use his body to shield it out for a throw-in and it ended up at his feet. And finding a teammate inside, no doubt.
Fortune perhaps favouring him there, but he's not a player who gives up on any loose balls. Guest opts for the chip. Might have had a crack from that position. He was a long way out, but
I must say, Lucas is making some really deft runs at the moment, and I think when you're a midfielder and you can see those well-timed runs, you want to get them the ball as much as possible. But he might have been better suited to have a crack there. He had some time and space.
free kick goes against Jai Ingham there for use of the arm. See Oscar Dillon just holding his nose. He's caught a stray.
Stray arm.
As we see the hooded figure of Chris Taylor on the touchline.
I see what what Joey was talking about before, the menacing look.
Anything to say dry in these conditions. He's absolutely pelting down. 2 minutes to be added at the end of this first half. Still just one goal the difference. Came after about 45 seconds to Aaron Williams. Mikola, cop late contact again. He's in a heap. Play goes on. Mikola still holding his face. The ball's over the top for Clark. Harvey Lopez a long way from home. Oh. Looks like an offside call has gone in South Melbourne's favour. While
Mikola's in a lot of pain down there, Josh. He was smashing the turf, screaming. He's in quite a bit of pain, it looks like.
Sure, if we have any footage of that incident that we can roll.
In terms of the challenge on Clark by Lopez too, Lopez had his hands outside the box, so if it wasn't an offside position, it certainly would have been a red.
Joey, what's the call here? Is he copped a stray arm?
Yeah, I feel like he's just got a finger in the eye, maybe.
Well, whatever it was, it happened incredibly quickly, and just Scotty, you think it happened to the eye?
Yeah, it looked like he was holding his face and maybe his eyes. He went down there to the collision with Oscar Dillon.
Yeah, I think the trailing arm behind him may have just flicked him as the arm came up.
And he made no attempt. He made no attempt to get back to his feet and join back in the play or help out defending. He was immediately down and screaming as Esteban Quintas has gone into the book for dissent as well. So a bit of fireworks to end the first half.
A nasty one for Max Mikola, who's copped some rough treatment today. Thanks, Joey and Ryan Scott on the touchline for that insight. Quintas again copping a booking for dissent, second week in a row. He's been the victim of what he feels is a great injustice. But
So I certainly don't think there was anything untoward. It was just really a stray rear arm. You know, your arms flail. It wasn't an elbow. It was just ugly times. But certainly no
malice in that one.
No malice, no ill thought.
Well, it looks like a lengthy injury stoppage as they try and patch up Max Mikola. Be a massive blow if they were to lose him, but
yeah, it would be classed as a head injury, so they would have to take the extra time to make sure that he's okay before moving him. You know, does it equate to a concussion protocol? I'm not sure, but certainly if he does have something that you can see, the referee wouldn't be halting the game. That stray arm just flicking upwards.
Oh, we see here the goal again. Aaron Williams getting in there ahead of Brad Norton. A superb delivery from Joe Knowles. Get the other angle here. Such perfect whip and shape on that ball. Couldn't have asked for a better corner. Just in that no man's land between defenders and goalkeeper.
No, it was. I actually called it. I thought it was Norton, but it wasn't Norton who had the player.
You think he's just been copped as the closest man to the ball in the end?
I feel like he landed near him, but Yankovic was the one who was beaten, because I saw Norton say, "Don't worry about it, mate. We'll get the next one."
Well, we've got an attendance figure coming in. We've hit the 4,000 mark tonight, Bubs.
Oh, that is
incredible.
ridiculous. Well done, Victoria. Especially when we have live coverage of an event, on, streaming services, and we have so much access online, and to have so many turn up in person is really amazing.
Big thank you to everyone who's come out tonight and everyone watching at home as well, tuning in for this spectacle. Max Mikola cutting a forlorn figure on the South Melbourne bench.
We do remember the Doherty Cup, though. Late injury in the in the first half. Catapulted into the second, so doesn't always mean danger.
Have lengthy added time as the first half plays out the last 2 minutes. South Melbourne are content to play it out with 10 men and try and patch Mikola up at half-time. And that will be the half-time whistle from Lachlan Keevers. Finally, the players get to go into the rooms after that long wait. Max Mikola, Esteban Quintas will be sweating over his fitness in the second half. South Melbourne could be forced into a change, but a goal down at the break. A brilliant one it was from Aaron Williams inside the opening minute, has Oakley Cannons on the path to their first ever championship. And Joey Lynch has got Joe Knowles there on the touchline.
Yes, I do indeed have Joe Knowles with me. Joe, it sounds like looks like that game's been played with a lot of feeling.
Yeah, a lot of passion from both sides. We both wanted it so much. I think we started off really well, and South Melbourne had a patch there as well, but it's pretty even at the moment.
Talking to some of your coaches before the game, they welcomed the rain. They thought it would help you play their game. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, it's good. The rain on the pitch, it makes it nice and wet, so we can zip the ball around and get the ball in the box, which has worked on a few occasions. We just need to find the back of the net now.
Some Joe Knowles, thank you very much. Go and get dry. Thank you. Words of Joe Knowles there as we prepare for the halftime break. Welcome to half-time of the 2022 NPL Men's Victoria Grand Final, and the score is the Oakley Cannons 1, South Melbourne 0. The Cannons going up after less than 1 minute of play, and after that, well, a sodden arm wrestle. Josh Parrish, Melissa Barbieri, Ryan Scott with me, Joey Lynch to break it all down. Josh, you and Bubs were up there in the scaffold, a bit wet, even wetter than we were on the touchline, it sounds like, but what did you make of the first 45?
I mean, Oakley just started like a house on fire. The intensity, the verve that they were playing with, obviously scoring a goal inside a minute is going to give you a huge boost, but the run that Anthony Pantazopoulos made, never giving up on the ball, all the way to the byline to win that corner, and one of the best deliveries you're likely to see from a set piece from Joe Knowles to tee up Aaron Williams, who's been definitely hard to mark off set pieces, arguably been Oakley's chief attacking threat. 3 times he's got free in the box, and that header after 45 seconds giving Oakley Cannons the advantage. But South Melbourne have taken time, I think, to adjust to the conditions, and certainly the wet has wreaked havoc with Max Mikkeler and his long throws.
Well, Scotty, that was one thing that you picked up from our vantage point on the sideline. Just set pieces seem to be the avenue towards goal for both of these teams.
Yeah, obviously, especially in grand final type games, set pieces can be the difference. Mikkeler did seem to struggle with them long throws, and then did go down just before half time. So I'll be interested to see if he does come back onto the park for the second half.
Well, Max Mikkeler went off holding his left eye. He was taken off, and listening to Esteban Quintes on the sideline, it sounded like they were going to make a change at half-time. So perhaps he makes a recovery in the dressing rooms. We'll find out when the game resumes. But, Bubs, these wet conditions, obviously not ideal for a goalkeeper, even with these magical new gloves that are so sticky and all of that. But what is this doing to the teams, these wet conditions, do you think?
Well, it's just evening out the bouncing ball, and you don't know who's going to be first to it, so you've got to actually challenge, and you get your body in the way and really make it difficult. And you saw in the goal, it was a battle of 2 against 1, and the 1 came out with it, and that was because they were stagnant, they didn't attack the ball, and the fact that Lopez was a little bit jittery in that first 20 or so minutes. Once he started to be a little bit more aggressive off his line and come and attack the ball, and you could see by Italiano, the one he dropped, I still say he dropped it before he was collected. Anything can happen in these conditions, and it really levels it out on any of those, dead ball situations.
Well, one thing that perhaps could categorise this grand final more than anything else, as well as rain, is physicality. The challenges are coming in thick and fast, and it really feels like 2 players have borne the brunt of that, 1 for each team. For South Melbourne, Max Mikkeler, even before he went down with the eye injury, was copping a lot of heavy knocks. For the Oakley Cannons, it's been Joe Knowles. The only time we really saw Chris Taylor get animated on the sideline, Scotty, was when Joe Knowles copped a few heavy hits. So, Josh, is that just grand final football? Is it 2 teams that don't like each other? Is it just let's get rid of the opposition's best player? What is it?
I think they must have been listening to our pre-game coverage, because those are the 2 guys we pinpointed as the men to stop, and it's been uncompromising on both players. Both coaches very, very animated. Those tough, rough challenges coming in. One of the times that Mikkeler was collected, I think, was a little accidental with Aaron Williams on the ground and trying to recover, and but it still was a crunching challenge. So yeah, the ball's skidding in really fast. The slide tackles are coming thick and fast. It's great fun to slide in the wet, but the guy on the receiving end, it's not going to go well for him. So yeah, it's how do these coaches protect their best players if Mikkeler is indeed able to stay on the park? How do they get more support around them so that they don't have to hold the ball for too long, so that physical pressure doesn't end up with them on the receiving end?
Well, mate, Bubs, you've played in grand finals, you've played in cup finals, you've played in continental finals, in Asian Cup finals. Do the emotions go up another level in these sort of environments, and these niggling challenges just anger you a bit more?
They certainly do, and I think you have to rise to the occasion in more ways than one. One, the physicality, but the mentality. You can't let that stuff get to you. If you start remonstrating with the referee too much, your emotions can actually sap you with physical energy, and then you're not any good to anyone. So you want to be passionate. especially if South Melbourne can get a goal on the board here. They'll need everything they have, and I think that's the part about South Melbourne, is they have a coach with a lot of energy, and he demonstrates a lot. And you just have to take that on board a little less in times like this, because if you can go to the level of your coach, he's not playing. You know, he's not riding the challenges. So you need to keep a lid on it while you let him do the yelling and stuff like that, as long as he stays on the bench.
Well, I mean, Scotty, you've played in winning grand finals and cup finals, but you have been on the wrong side of a few as well. Half-time, and you've been in some comebacks as well. Half-time, what do you think the message is for the South Melbourne players from Esteban Quinzas as they try to get back into this one?
Well, it's simple. They've got 45 minutes to go and at least get one to send it to extra time. But, yeah, he'll be trying to rev his boys up, and they've just got to find a way, whether it's a set piece, whether it's some individual brilliance, whether it's a mistake from Oakley that gives an opportunity to get back on level peggings. But he's got 45 minutes, so we'll see if they can turn it around.
Indeed, 45 minutes between pain, glory, ecstasy and agony. Looking forward to it. Josh, Bubs, you better get back to your commentary position. We've got a big second 45 coming up. Be sure to join us for it.
Welcome back for the second half here at Village, the 2022 NPL Men's Victoria Grand Final presented by Chenol. And we've got the halftime change that South Melbourne fans were fearing. Max Mikola withdrawn due to an eye injury, and coming on in his place is number 14, Josh Wallen. So South Melbourne forced into a reshuffle, and to lose a player of Max Mikola's calibre in the biggest game of all is a sickening blow for the team, who finds themselves a goal down at the break. Josh Parrish alongside Melissa Barbieri tonight. Bubs. It's a big loss. How do they cope, South Melbourne, without their talisman?
It's going to be, I think it's dangerous. It's like poking the bear. You know, when you lose your best player, you know you have to rise as others.
Oakley to kick us off in their white strip. Chris Lucas coughing up possession early. Tyson Holmes set the tempo at the base of the midfield for Oakley today. Talking about embracing the occasion and dealing with the pressure that comes in these situations. Tyson Holmes, I think, exemplifies that, Bubs.
He certainly does, and you know, you're riding the wave emotions in a game, and it's who can best not only keep wraps on it but also use it.
Goes Daniel Clark. Pocket of space to measure the delivery. It's whipped in dangerously and no telling touch. Oakley let that chance go begging.
He could just see Knowles at the back post.
Did he try and pick out the wrong man? Was Oliver Kubalay the more suitable target? It just seemed to wrong foot him.
Certainly was. Fraction of a header away.
Dangerous delivery off the corner kick, and would you believe it? Aaron Williams! Lightning strikes twice for the Oakley Cannons. Aaron Williams is the hero once again.
He absolutely finished that one with a plum. I thought in the opening half he had this opportunity at the top of the box, and because he was a defender I gave him some stick saying that he couldn't quite get his foot around it, but he makes no mistake here at the back of the 6-yard box. The ball just travels through everybody's legs and he picks out his right foot and he sticks it into the top of the net. South Melbourne will be disappointed with that because they had a few players in and amongst that ball through, and it just skipped through it once again. The ball bouncing, creating havoc.
We'll go down to Joey Lynch and Ryan Scott on the touchline. Oakley taking a commanding lead in this one.
And within moments of the goal going in, Esteban Quintas immediately turning to his substitutes and telling them to warm up. So an immediate reaction from South Melbourne. But Scotty, that man from the set piece again.
Yeah, again, Aaron Williams. It seemed to, I don't know, bamboozle a lot of the guys, and he found himself free at the back post, and he's got his second.
So it looks like we're going to see an immediate reaction, perhaps in the form of substitutes from South Melbourne, Josh.
Meanwhile, it's a South corner, and they're up in arms here. They want the penalty for handball. Tyson Holmes, the culprit. Referee waves it away. Yet another corner. Langlois flicks it goalwards, but it's high and wide of the mark.
It was almost that difference of delivery that kind of trapped the South Melbourne defenders in thinking that they were going to have to clear a ball header-wise. Didn't think to attack the ball front post.
Well, South Melbourne are up against it now. What can they muster? Norton to try and find a teammate in the box. It's a lofted cross, headed away by Kubalay. What an incredible night Aaron Williams is having. The unlikely hero. 2 goals from central defence.
I feel bad because no one mentioned him in the pre-match.
Well, we never pinpointed him as an attacking threat, but he's come up with the goods today. Set-piece deliveries from Joe Knowles have been on point, and that one was fizzled in, a crackling, whipped cross, and South Melbourne just couldn't deal with it.
No, that's right. And I feel like Oakley have learnt their lesson from the Doherty Cup. I feel like, you know, just because a team loses a player right before half-time doesn't mean anything. You've got to really battle it out, and credit to them. They they did put the pressure on early in the second half, and once again, I think every coach has said it's the first couple of minutes after kickoff and it's the first couple of minutes after a goal that you need to be most wary.
Oscar Dillon taking his time. Oakley are on their way. Never won the championship before. Twice premiers, never champions in Victoria. South Melbourne with 10 such titles to their name over the years. The dominant team all year. Finished top of the pile. An upset on the cards in the grand final. As Daniel Clark steams forward down the wing. The cutback cut out in the end.
He had very few options, so I think he just tried to win a corner for himself, but
he was slaloming his way through, wasn't he? Thinking, when is this run going to end? Chris Lucas, early delivery. Joe Guest is up for it.
Wow.
Scramble in the box to get it away. Knowles fancies it from distance, but it was always bending away from the target.
Tried to bend that back in, didn't he? But Guest rising above.
South Melbourne seem to have no answer at the moment for the speed and verve of this Oakley attack. Williams put under pressure again by Webb.
This time the linesman flag thwarts that attack for South Melbourne.
Wouldn't have counted. Offside flag was up.
This steady drizzle of rain just playing in the hands of Oakley a little bit more than South Melbourne.
Slick surface enabling them to play their intended fast-paced
like when you're playing to
game.
feet, the speed of the pass with a bit of slick on the grass is absolutely amazing. You know, because the ball can get to you quicker than anybody can run.
And it feels like home almost for Oakley because it's such a quick surface at Jack Edwards.
Yeah.
Their home deck where they're so dominant. Knowles. Drifting infield. Plays the patient pass.
I think Fashini wanted the ball to Lucas so he could overlap.
Yeah, Fashini making no attempt at that one.
No.
It's quite confusing. Crossed wires. Now it's fed down the line. Aaron Williams is going to make up the ground ahead of Jyingham. It spills for Schroen. Sells the dummy. Marcus Schroen tried to do it all himself, but on his weaker right foot. That was always going to be a tough ask from that sort of range.
Certainly. All you need is a little bit of a deflection, though, on the way to goal to make it hard for a goalkeeper to read the trajectory, but that was always rising and going over the bar. Italiano just taking his time to take the goal kick.
Long from Italiano. Clark can't find a teammate with the stooping flicked header. Pantazopoulos leaves it short. Cleaning up for his own mistake there, Anthony Pantazopoulos.
This is where Oakley's experience will come to the fore. They've got South Melbourne start throwing numbers forward and trying to quickly transition.
Evans. No one at the back post. Only Matthew Fashini waiting.
I think Fashini for me is critical in terms of leadership out there for Oakley. If he's on target and he's on song and he's driving that back line, I feel like they're a little bit more, inclined to stay disciplined. I really felt in the Doherty Cup he just took the pedal off and allowed the opposition to come back into the game. I feel like he's got a different mentality tonight. Maybe a little bit more respect for his opponents too, but
suppose they've had a little bit more rest this week as well.
Yeah.
As opposed to the turnaround they were operating on last time.
Yeah, not so much for Wednesday night though.
No. There's going to be some sore bodies when they face MacArthur, that's for sure. Sure how big the celebration will be if this scoreline holds.
No.
A big game coming up on Wednesday night.
It'll
72 hours turnaround.
It will certainly be muted.
Langlois. Dezopoulos attacking it. Big 50-50 Joe Knowles steaming in and has come off worse for wear against Morgan Evans.
The ricochet of the ball just absolutely smashing Knowles in the face there on a cold night like this.
Ouch. It's fallen heavily as well.
And the physicality coming to the fore, as we were talking to Joey about. And it is a head injury, so they'll have to take a moment.
We'll see if the boys on the touchline have anything for us. Joey Lynch, we noticed Esteban Quintas showing some notes to his players in that stoppage.
Well, to be honest, Josh, me and Scotty down here, we're more taken aback by the thud that just came when that ball hit Knowles in the face. It really was something audible. I mean, he stayed out there. I immediately checked. Nobody from Oakley warming up, so he's either a trooper or he's just going to have to keep going for a little while regardless.
Big falcon for Joe Knowles. He's copped a few decent hits tonight.
Mate, he knows what it's like to be a keeper now.
No sympathy.
We take those in training from him all the time, so...
Especially a guy who can hit a ball like Joe Knowles. Joey Lynch.
Looking like there's also, speaking with Nick DeBarno, who's down here with me, Josh Parrish, looks like South back going to a back three, potentially in some looks as well, so shifting it up to get a few more bodies forward.
Change of system for South Melbourne. They need to do something different. Evans latches onto a loose pass. Alan Webb to measure the cross. Unable to get any sort of meaningful contact on it. It was Josh Wallen in there.
He almost took it off the foot of a teammate.
Looking roughly like a 3-4-3 for South Melbourne now. Norton and Evans more advanced. Liram El-Mazi dropping into the back line. Of course, naturally a central defender who's been converted to midfield, so that spot will feel like home for him, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then he'll probably step in to add more attacking prowess too.
Evans, well-timed sliding challenge, but can't dispossess Joe Knowles. He's still going here, and it's way overhit the cross. It's his worst delivery of the night. They've mostly been very, very, very sharp.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where you're trying to get power and curl on it, and it, just the wrong connection, ball bouncing a little bit, takes it out of your trajectory.
Schroen. Big switch was telegraphed somewhat. Pantazopoulos play it safe. Kubalay goes down after the little shove in the back from Josh Wallen. The impact sub has come over from Bentley Greens. He's had an interesting career in the UK, Josh Wallen. Captained the under-23s at Queen's Park Rangers and played for FC United of Manchester in the lower divisions in England. Which is the splinter offshoot club from it was a protest club formed by the Manchester United fans against their ownership.
What a resume.
Time at Bentley was blighted by injury. It is a player of great pace and energy and a lot of fighting spirit, which you need in those lower divisions in the UK. Crowd sparking up again for South Melbourne in a 2-goal hole at the moment. It's Oakley with the corner. They haven't defended these situations well tonight, Bobs.
No, they haven't. And also the fact that Quintas has gone to a 3 at the back almost feels like they're going to go 5 at the back. They're not really pushing those numbers forward as much as they'd like.
Joe Guest's ball in this time. Joe Knowles is back out there after suffering that head knock. Kubalay with a little bit of time. Measures the long ball. It's a good aerial win from, if it was Jake Marshall.
It's one of those balls again where Lopez is coming out, half not. Communication with his defenders might be a little bit lackluster tonight, but certainly not the aggressive one that I usually see. It's a different Lopez out there tonight.
Not sure if they have this kind of rain in Spain. It's probably never seen it before.
I think I've heard a movie with that line somewhere. But isn't it funny that I would have thought that Italiano would have to have done a little bit more than he has this evening. I mean, apart from the drop catch, there really hasn't been anything.
Got Joey Lynch down there in the touchline for us. Joey, we've got a sub being prepared for South Melbourne.
Indeed, Chris Irwin coming on for South Melbourne. I'm waiting to see who he will replace. Of course, Max Mickler already coming off at half-time. Receiving some last-minute instructions from Esteban Quintas. Will be made at the next stoppage. Sounds like it might be Ingham that he's replacing.
Well, we mentioned Jai Ingham has rarely got through 90 minutes this season, if at all. So it might be a planned substitution anyway. Here goes Joe Knowles. Stopped in his tracks by Jankovic. Kubalay. Guest. Exchanging passes with Anthony Pantazopoulos. It's a risky switch. Fashini gets there first when he needed to. Knowles can't get past Jankovic. He's done well in the one-on-one there. And now we'll have that change. Looks like Morgan Evans who's coming off, in fact, according to the substitutes board.
I was thinking that, you know, somebody like Evans, that he's come on, done a great job for his age and what he's been expected to do, but certainly if you're trying to throw numbers forward, the inexperienced ones would make way.
The utility man, Josh Wallen, goes to right wing back. Knowles hits it on his left. Again, it sprays wide, but he's never shy of having a crack coming into tonight's game.
Just love the way he leads his defender to the ball and turns out, gets a shot off. Not on target, but still can be deadly from that angle.
Coming into tonight, 113 shots this season, number 1 in the whole competition. We'll have to add 4 or 5 more onto that after tonight as Kubalay threads a gap. Knowles picks out the overlapping run of Fashini. It's floated to the back stick. Chris Lucas was climbing. Clark lays it off for Joe Knowles, who gets past Wallen. Knowles, can he pick out a teammate? Harvey Lopez with the risky punch. Daniel Clark fires it in low, and Lopez able to gather.
He had to get his hands around that one so that none of the follow-up Oakley players could stick it in the back of the net.
Could have been good night, South Melbourne.
Certainly cheeky by Knowles, trying to chip Lopez from that angle.
As it stands, still very much in the balance. Pantazopoulos for Knowles. It's causing havoc at the moment. Jankovic let it run. In the end, it was the right decision, just.
Oakley taking advantage of the fact that South Melbourne want to push players forward, and in this formation, they are leaving wide areas really exposed. So that means your Knowles and your Lucas are now one-on-one with defenders. They don't have a second defender to beat. All they need to beat is that right or left centre-back, and away they go. And Knowles getting the ball in that wing area, especially in those transition moments. One might find that South Melbourne, if that forward attacking momentum doesn't end up in a South Melbourne goal, they might expose themselves.
Well, they're leaving that front three one-on-one, as you say.
You got to gamble that, don't you? You got to gamble it. It's grand final. Your fans wouldn't like it if you just saw yourself stay in that 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 even. You want to see something from your team.
Josh Wallen trying to play very high on this right-hand side. It's a tough ball for El Mazi. Kubalay thunders into Irwin, and then he wins the header brilliantly, Kubalay.
What control by Clark there.
Footwork from Knowles, but he's given it away. Tees up Marcus Sherwin, who might have a crack from here. It's a tame shot straight into the breadbasket of Luis Italiano.
I've seen things like that skip through on wet nights, so Italiano did well to get both hands and knee behind the ball to stop that from going in the back of the net. They look easy, but they're not. Says the biased goalkeeper commentator.
I wasn't going to say. Tyson Holmes gaining some territory on the right-hand side. I did notice the nervy intake of breath just as that one skidded through to Italiano. No. Goalkeepers union in
know.
action.
That's the main thing for me, I want goalkeepers to have a good game and make some saves.
Daniel Clark. Fashini's delivery. Hangs it up for Joe Knowles. Can't generate the power. South Melbourne need to get out of their own half and quickly. Again, Oakley constricting the space. Oh, a nervy moment there for Harvey Lopez. Who knows where that ball could have dropped. He got a fist on it, but it was altogether unconvincing from the Spaniard who's shone this season. He's had a tough night.
My audible gasp, I'm sorry.
Heart-in-mouth moment for Harvey Lopez and for Melissa Barbieri alongside me, who's having kittens.
Well, I was just going to mention that Oakley is just playing some lovely football. I mean, the scoreline allows that. They're not pushing for a goal, but because they're playing some lovely football, the goals are coming. The goal chances are coming for them because they're exposing South Melbourne in the critical areas that they're leaving behind.
Pandazopoulos feeling Webb was backing into him there, and he'll be penalised. Second to the ball, Anthony Pandazopoulos, and the yellow card is out for the young fullback. Going through Jai Ingham.
Just getting a couple of words from his captain, making sure, hey, those are the things that we don't need to win.
I don't think he meant it, but ended up booting his opponent up in the air.
That's right. And I mean, youngsters, they want to clear the ball, they want to clear the danger, but in actual fact, if you allow the opponent to have possession, take a touch, you can then win it. Usually from good body position.
Marcus Schroen is the man entrusted to find a South Melbourne head. It's a good delivery, but Italiano will gather at the second attempt. The simple catches can be difficult in this wet. Looked to have nice shape on it. In the end, it was
just faded away.
Yeah. Knowles, what a brilliant first touch that was. Still going, Joe Knowles. Picking out Chris Lucas. Irwin stops him in his tracks. And the whistle goes against Lucas.
It was a lovely run again by Lucas. Knowles just had the ball just separated too far in order to play Lucas that crucial moment. Got it to him in the end.
Tyson Holmes wrestling Ingham to the ground. Square up. Wants to take it quickly, Jai Ingham. Alan Webb to cross. Chris Irwin arriving and beaten around the post by Luis Italiano.
That quick interchange of play by South Melbourne exposing Oakley. That back post run rises to the occasion, doesn't get a head to it, but just a body part is enough. And Italiano, great save to his right.
It's a dangerous delivery again. Italiano forced to punch with Lira Melmazi in front of him.
Well, you can't beat an experienced goalkeeper that comes to the fore. He hasn't had anything to do for a majority of the match, and he steps up to the plate.
Joey Lynch, what have you got for us?
Well, it looks like South Melbourne are preparing to make a change, a few talks, and it looks like number 31, Xavier Ryan, an under-20s player, and I think very little, if any, senior experience, Josh.
Incredible moment for the young man.
They've just won the under-21, so maybe he played well, maybe he made some waves.
Could have caught the eye in the grand final.
They were certainly looking like they wanted to put him on before the corner. He's now warming up with the other players on that far side.
They turn to one of their own youth products. They look to chase this game. South Melbourne. Kubalay pulled back by Wallen, cynically so. Yellow ticket out for the substitute.
It's hard to keep a track of all the yellow cards this evening. A few of them have to be careful in this latter part of the second half, trying to stay on the field. With 20 minutes still left to play, you have to be careful.
It's an Aaron Williams brace that separates the two sides. There he is, the number 14.
Speak of the devil. Turned dead ball specialist.
I think he'll send this one
to Clark.
Into centre forward. Clark applying the pressure. Fender lost his footing, but no whistle forthcoming. Kubalay goes to ground again. Marcus Strowan not impressed. We've got an Oakley player down. Is that Aaron Williams?
Williams,
it is.
who just took the
Bore the brunt of a challenge. Looks like he's holding his face. Another facial injury tonight. Max Mikula forced off with an eye issue. He copped a stray hand or a stray arm.
It might have been something to the breadbasket, Josh, because he's been coughing down there on his haunches.
and feeling ill.
So maybe contact was a little lower than I originally thought. He'll,
had his head in his hands, that's for sure.
That's true. He'll run that one off as Joe guessed. Hooks one in. Dylan two-footing the signage. South Melbourne need that sense of urgency. This place will go bananas if South can pull a goal back and give the 1,000-strong crowd here,
to think that
primarily
Oakley,
South fans, a bit of hope. Yep.
Yeah, to think that Oakley still have Decker.
They've still got Wade Decker in reserve. What a luxury. What South Melbourne wouldn't give to have a player like that to bring on at this point. It's funny when you talk about the league leaders, but their depth has really been tested tonight. Fashini for Lucas. Lucas didn't need to give that one away. Joe Guest wondering what that was about.
Oh,
Williams back into the action. Very proactive defending. He picks out Joe Knowles with a pinpoint pass. Now it's Daniel Clark. Drifts one into the area. They can't clear it, South Melbourne. Knowles going down, Holmes arriving. And it's going to be a free kick right on the edge of the penalty area.
Interesting to note, there was no advantage played there. Referee called it straight away.
Yeah, just catching Joe Knowles late, Liam Elmazi. In disbelief at the decision. He just sold a dummy there, Joe Knowles. He was too quick. Perhaps he's accentuated the contact somewhat, but so hard to stop when he is facing goal and dribbling at players.
Just, you know, it's my biggest bugbear as a keeper, having your defender flinch.
And look at this tactic here.
Oh, they do it often.
Man lying down behind the wall. From this sort of range, it probably makes sense.
Because if you drive and your wall jumps.
It is the left foot, and it's saved. Oh. And the rebound is wide from Clark. Smashed at the goalkeeper by Joe Guest. But Daniel Clark should have done better there.
It was coming at him at pace. Lopez gets two hands to it. It was driven through the gap in the wall. And Lopez never catches. Like, you know, anything that's come in those situations, he never catches. He punches everything. This time it's fallen to Clark. Just probably the angle of it ricocheting out didn't help.
In the meantime, we've had a substitution. Gillingham going to the bench. Xavier Ryan straight into the action. Howls of protest after his challenge on Aaron Williams. His first involvement, a contentious one. Kubalay popping up. Great pass to pick him out. And now it's Joe Guest from the angle. It's begging for a touch. It's there. Chris Lucas. Oakley Cannons are going to win their first championship.
Oh,
and there's a red card that's come out behind play. Amidst the scenes of celebration, despair for Marko Jankovic, who's straight down the tunnel.
Jankovic picked up the ball from the goal and booted it straight into an Oakley player, thus giving the red card. The referee no other option to give the red card. Not sure it was captured. But what a finish.
It was a great ball to find Kubalay in the first place.
Yeah.
He spots a gap, little ball with the outside of the boot. Joe Guest, it's deflected delivery, but he smashes it across goal.
What I really loved about that was Lucas was free a whole lot earlier.
And here's the incident here. Marko Jankovic booting the ball into Tyson Holmes as he gave him a bit of lip. Former teammates at Bentley Greens.
As we see a mass exodus out of the park, unfortunately.
South Melbourne fans, some of them have seen enough. Heading for the exit, speeding the traffic. A comeback from here would be unlikely, if not impossible. Alan Webb scythed down. Joey Lynch, what have you got for us? It's all happening.
Well, you mentioned some of the South fans leaving early, Josh, and as they do, they were given a bit of a farewell by Oakley's Matt Fashini over there on the far sidelines, embracing his pro wrestling heel. He was inviting the jeers and inviting the boos, and then he gave it a bit of the CM Punk go to sleep sign with him before. So embracing his villain role tonight as Oakley take a 3-0 lead.
Not the first time we've seen that side of Matt Fashini. He's giving the Heidelberg fans plenty of stick in the elimination final at Jack Edwards.
Oakley have everyone back. They're certainly not going to take it for granted that they've got a 10-man opposition, especially in this Dead ball situation.
Control and produce it straight into the wall. Irwin. Early delivery. Tyson Holmes heads behind.
I was thinking about that Oakley goal. They could have played Lucas so much earlier, but they opted not to. Play it out to Clark, who whipped the ball in. Just such composed work by Oakley. I mean, finding those gaps in the wide areas was, you know, Kubalay sitting in that 10 role in between the defenders and dragging people out. Lovely.
Well, for years, Oakley have copped the Chokeley tag. They're finally shedding that tonight. How satisfying that will be. A championship drought finally over. Lucas. Knowles.
Oh, what a ball.
Return ball. Trying to pick out Chris Lucas. It's artistic in its intention. Couldn't quite find the mark. It's all this cherry on the cake stuff for Oakley now. This game is well and truly buried in front of a hostile crowd here. They've showed such composure tonight. Wallen's ball in deflected. Aaron Williams again. It's not just been the goals tonight. He has been a rock. So many crosses swung into the area have been met by Williams. His positioning is just superlative. Now Schroen to hit one on the volley. Can't make meaningful contact and loses out to Kubalay. Who's really shone in this second half, Ollie Kubalay.
Now Schroen got a yellow card before, so he had to opt out of that challenge.
Tyson Holmes riding one. Slides it into Joe Knowles. They're queuing up. Joe Knowles brought down. Penalty. This is turning into a rout. The 10 men of South Melbourne going down in flames.
Josh, I think Chris Taylor was jokingly telling Italiano to go and take the penalty.
Well, we talked about sentimentality. No love lost there if he's
No.
playing those sort of games.
I will say, look, as much as those things kind of take the mickey, goalkeepers are probably the best penalty takers, to be fair.
This is the wackiest theory I've heard so far tonight.
No, because we know what the other goalkeepers are doing. You know how to send them the wrong way, sort of thing. But in terms of penalty takers, who do you pick from Oakley? It's like
it's going to be Joe Guest. Got many capable options, but with Joe Knowles still receiving treatment,
he's probably not an option.
Well,
sometimes when you ride a challenge like that, you want to get up and take it. But probably
he's copped a fair few knocks tonight, and
yeah,
I'm going to look to
Wednesday as well.
Yeah, wrap him in cotton wool. I think if it were up to me, I'd be bringing him off for Wade Decker ASAP and say, job done, mate.
Yeah.
Save you for Wednesday night. He limps to the sideline. There's a thumbs up from the physio, so he might be good to stay on. Long wait for this penalty. It's Joe Guest. Sends Lopez the wrong way and sends Oakley on their way to silverware. Joey Guest, cool as a cucumber. And this is getting ugly for South Melbourne.
Oakley fans embracing on the sidelines. They know what it means for the club. CT's probably the only one not celebrating just yet. Everyone on the bench seems to be dishing out the hugs.
Oakley fans firing up. They've waited so long for this. So many nearly moments. So many crushing disappointments. Finally, the day has come. Langlois. Webb. Oh, it's an open goal for Chris Irwin, but he can't find the target, can't make contact with that delivery. He was at full stretch, in fairness.
Langlois receiving the ball in that critical area just inside the centre backs.
Fans enjoying themselves if you have a Cannons persuasion.
Credit to everyone that's come out tonight. It's not been the best of nights in terms of weather, and
here we go. Finally, we have that change. Joe Knowles limping off with injury. Well, he's still on the pitch, in fact. He's going to be wrapped in cotton wool until Wednesday night against MacArthur. What a performance from him. He has been electric.
He has.
Both in live play and from dead balls. Gets a big hug from Chris Taylor. And Wade Decker comes on to replace him. Mario Barcia also being prepared. Hasn't made his entrance just yet. Oakley spacing out their subs. Josh Wallen. Langlois. Webb throws a step over. Langlois, it's a poor pass in truth. Clark. Decker arriving. Giving the return ball, but slid out of play by Jake Marshall. And now Chris Lucas will go to the bench as well. So it'll have to be a positional reshuffle here with a holding midfielder and Mario Barcia entering the game. Looks like Tyson Holmes might deputise on the right-hand side for the last few minutes.
Feel a bit bad for Nick Nyagora and Josh. He was warming up when it was 2-0 and preparing to come on, and now he's not had a chance to come on yet.
Well, he's been the cup specialist this season, Joey, so perhaps Wednesday night will be his night.
Look out, MacArthur.
Clark. What's the mood like on the touchline, Joey?
Well, it's feeling, as you can imagine, well, the South fans, they're beginning to clear out, but it's jubilant on the Oakley Cannon side. You can see those associated with the club moving towards the bench. CT's already started giving high fives to the those around him, and a few chants of "We are champions." It's really party time for the Oakley Cannons, and well, just melancholy and despair, for lack of a better word, on the south side of things.
Well, this will be sweet for Chris Taylor after the contentious nature of his departure from South Melbourne. We'll drag back from Schroen. Guests. They're outnumbering South Melbourne again. It could be 5. It's Daniel Clark. It is 5.
Offside.
But the offside flag is raised. Celebrations premature. It's not 5.
It's not 5. Take that back.
Daniel Clark thought he'd gone in on the act. Slightly tired challenge that time. Kilometres he's covered tonight. Significant in Oakley's advantage. Now Nick Nyagorian will get his chance. Towering centre forward, replacing Daniel Clark, who you've been impressed with, Bubs.
Yeah.
He's a selfless footballer.
He is. I mean, he was for South too. I mean, you know, his ability to put pressure on up front, you know, being the talisman is not always about scoring the goals. It's about linking players. It's about bringing things down, flick-ons. And then the pressure that you put on teams playing out is really important.
Well, 5 minutes until the party really starts for the Cannons. South Melbourne just praying for the final whistle at this point.
They want the pain to be over.
Decker, Guest. Really the performance they've put in tonight, South Melbourne, not reflective of the quality that this team really possesses and the season that they've had. It's the scoreline slightly flat as Oakley, but they'll finish their chances.
Yeah.
And South have been way too lax at the back.
I mean,
uncharacteristically so.
Italiano had to make some critical saves in there in that crucial period of the game where South were coming up.
And really their season has revolved around three key players in Sawyer, Mikola and Lopez is the only one left out there. So
yeah.
Against tough opposition, it was a tall ask in this second half. They produced 15 to 20 minutes of pretty good football and good pressure, but
yeah, I did feel the pendulum swing. I felt like it was coming to South Melbourne. They just needed to get on the board, but they just couldn't get any critical purchase.
We'll go down to Joey Lynch, I think. Esteban Quintas has gone over to the Oakley bench.
Yeah, he's gone early. It's nothing angry. Plenty of hugs, plenty of handshakes. It seems that getting it out of the way now and demonstration of respect, no anger in it, just recognition, well, you're not coming back from 4-0 down in stoppage time.
It's coaching equivalent of a concession speech from Esteban Quintas. Season of triumph ending in crushing disappointment. They have a lot to be proud of, South Melbourne, this year.
They certainly do.
Guest over the free kick. Decker. Naigoran. Running out of room. The big striker.
You can hear shouts of clean sheet for Oakley. They don't want just the trophy.
Naigoran. Holmes. Guest. Time to pick out his teammates. Get it away by Almazi, and now struck first time by Kubalay.
Wow.
It's a brilliant stop by Lopez. It really is.
Lovely goalkeeping there by Lopez. The volley came short and sharp. It even got a little bit of a deflection off Nigorian.
It would have been Nick Naigoran's goal.
Yeah. He had to get down low and get a good hand to it and not put it into the path of another Oakley attacker.
Well, he scored a hat-trick in the Australia Cup, Nick Naigoran, but he hasn't scored in the league this season. Didn't know much about that one. Decker! It is 5 this time. Wade Decker off the bench and onto the score sheet. The cherry on the cake for the Oakley Cannons. All 11 players running the length of the pitch to celebrate, including Luis Italiano. And as well they might. Not in their wildest dreams could they have conjured a scoreline like this.
It was always going to be difficult once they went 2-0 up and South Melbourne had to change formation to throw numbers forward. Always going to leave themselves that little bit exposed, but the dead ball situations for South Melbourne have been atrocious in terms of marking and allowing players to get front position. This low ball in once again.
And Wade Decker's goal is the last action of the 2022 Grand Final. A scoreline nobody could have seen coming. The underdogs do it in some style. Chris Taylor, vindication for him. Oakley Cannons win the championship for the first time. And it is 5-0. Melissa Barbieri.
Stunned.
Try and put that into words.
You can't. I mean, I did say it just then about the scoreline, and you want your team to go out fighting. You want them to be throwing numbers forward, but I do feel like losing Max Mikola right before the half-time really put a dampener on the South Melbourne prospects. They do have the calibre elsewhere on the field, like he's not their only player, but it certainly would have put a cap in the feather for Oakley in terms of confidence-wise. They would have streamed ahead thinking, well, they are one player down, we've got that little bit over them, and if we can just drive it home, and then scoring within, the opening segments of the second half, that just put them into good stead, and they knew what it takes to ride out a final this time after losing it in the Doherty Cup. I think they really did come out of that loss with a lot of thoughts and about what to do next time.
A crushing defeat in the Doherty Cup final after giving up a winning position. They weren't going to let it slip again.
No, that's right.
With the advantage at half-time.
There's a clear difference in the discipline that they had. I remember thinking about the more experienced Oakley players, how they started to be a little bit, they were just too composed, lacking that little bit of tenacity. They thought they had it, but it was a different Oakley team this evening. And probably the win against Sydney FC, how they had to ride that out as well, put them in good stead for this evening.
Well, stay tuned for the presentations and the post-match celebrations. The final score at Olympic Village: South Melbourne 0, Oakley Cannons 5.
Wait, photo, right. That's actually my favourite pose. What's the story? Yeah. You did block that. Yeah, look at this shirt. We got clutchy shit. Look at Italiano, he loves it.
What happened, Sal?
Point here by an unlikely hero, Aaron Williams. Aaron, when you got in the car to come to Olympic Village today, did you anticipate scoring a brace?
Absolutely not. I don't think I've ever scored a brace in my whole career. So it's just a credit to the boys. We smashed them, to be honest. That's no other words, to be honest. 5-0 in the grand final. We couldn't ask for anything more.
5-0. What went so right for you guys tonight?
We just wanted it more. We said before the game, come out, give everything we got. Could be the last game of the season. Obviously, we got a game on Wednesday, but we've fought all season to win this championship, and we won it.
No doubt MacArthur are watching. MacArthur have just watched you put South Melbourne to the sword. Can you ride this wave of momentum into an Australia Cup final?
Well, we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but we're going to go into the game confident. So we're just going to have to see how we go, and hopefully we can get a good result.
And I got to ask, mate, Oakley, they've had that reputation, the underachievers, not able to win the big one. Well, they won the big one tonight, and they won it in a big way. How does it feel?
Absolutely. No more curse anymore. Oakley champions, NPL. Come on, the boys.
Thanks very much, mate. Enjoy it. Went by Joe Knowles, mate. I grabbed you at half-time when you were leading 1-0. You've only gone and scored 4 goals in the second half. What went so right?
Just another early goal straight away in the second half. Obviously helped us just kind of get settled with that two goal buffer. We knew it was always going to be hard for them to score against us. Once we got 2 goals up, they're used to just defending a lead. So once we got those 2 goals, we just thought we're just going to go for it. And credit to the boys, we pushed forward every time we got it, and we're lethal in attack. We've shown that all year, and them getting players sent off doesn't help either. So we just punished them in the end.
And the breakthrough, I asked Aaron this, the breakthrough's come. Oakley no more, Oakley Cannons champions. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's just a credit to everyone that's involved in the club, all the people, the staff, the committee, the players, the coaching staff. Everyone deserves this so much, and you can see in the performance tonight, the heart that we gave, it was for everyone.
Well, go and enjoy it, mate. Go and get your medal.
Oakley's on fire. I a couple cramps. Sorry,
I was getting in the car. Yeah, I got in the car and I cramped. My hamstrings just fucked the past couple of weeks.
Oh, they're giving out medals. They're going to be ages.
I just want to go home. Oh, but if we go back to the club, though, it's free food, like celebration.
The club?
Yeah, go back to the club. Yeah, go. I'm going to go.
You guys live out that way, don't you?
Oh, I see, you're the complete opposite way.
I'm at like Albert Park.
Yeah, it's at least sort of on the way home for me. Yeah. Nah, bro, if you really
Chris.
Chris. He hasn't forgot who the fuck you are, or he's pissed.
Nah, he doesn't know, bro. He's like the general manager for like South. Like, he does everything.
Oh, he's like that. Combination of both.
He's legit at every game. Like, does everything. Oakley's on fire. Lee, what happened there? Just on the fucking other side. 5-0. Huh? Yeah. Red card as well. That was great.
What do you keep the ball? Did you pick it up and fucking smash it?
Say Oakley, actually. Yeah, hopefully. Cheers, right. Are you playing at all? Yeah. Do you have any politics or?
They're going to lift the track
Do they ever
for
keep
mate?
it?
How long?
Second month. Oh yeah. That guy.
Huh? Yeah, I can't be fucking doing anything else. So I had a 6-week fucking assignment for PE. I've not started. It was due Friday.
I left at like 11. I left at 12. From 12
It's like a 12-hour day. Just about.
Sees his opportunity with both hands this year. Can they find off the corner kick? It's a dangerous delivery, and Oakley Cannons take the lead. My goodness. 48 seconds is all it took.
I don't think he would have thought that he'd be playing in a grand final at this stage.
He sees his opportunity with both hands this year. Can they find off the corner kick? It's a dangerous delivery, and Oakley Cannons take the lead. My goodness. 48 seconds is all it took.
Certainly was. Fraction of a header away.
Dangerous delivery off the corner kick, and would you believe it? Aaron Williams. Lightning strike.
Certainly was. Fraction of a header away.
Dangerous delivery off the corner kick, and would you believe it? Aaron Williams. Lightning strike. Kubalay popping up. Great pass to pick him out. And now it's Joe Guest from the angle. It's begging for a touch. It's there. Chris Lucas. Oakley Cannons are going to win their first championship.
Oh,
and there's a red card that's come out behind play. Kubalay popping up. Great pass to pick him out. And now it's Joe Guest from the angle. It's begging for a touch. It's there. Chris Lucas! Oakley Cannons are going to win their first championship.
Oh,
and there's a red
straight
card
red.
that's come out behind play. Kubalay popping up. Great pass to pick him out. And now it's Joe Guest from the angle. It's begging for a touch. It's there. Chris Lucas. Oakley Cannons are going to win their first championship.
Oh,
and there's a red
straight
card
red.
that's come out behind play. In the league this season. Didn't know much about that one. Decker! It is 5 this time. Wade Decker off the bench and onto the score sheet. The cherry on the cake for the Oakley Cannons. In the league this season. Didn't know much about that one. Decker! It is 5 this time. Wade Decker off the bench and onto the score sheet. The cherry on the cake for the Oakley Cannons. In the league this season. Didn't know much about that one. Decker! It is 5 this time. Wade Decker off the bench and onto the score sheet. The cherry on the cake for the Oakley Cannons.
1, 2, 3. Yep. Pretty off that weather jacket.
Ladies and gentlemen, how good was that? What an epic way to end the NPL men's victorious season in 2022. Can we please have a big round of applause for two teams who've had outstanding seasons, South Melbourne and Oakley Cannons. A big thank you also to our host venue today, Olympic Village, and to our sponsors, including our match ball sponsor, Mitre, Ultra Football, and our major sponsor, Chenol. Chenol's name is synonymous with Victorian football, supporting the game at all levels, including as naming rights partner of the NPL finals since 2019. Established 18 years ago as an independent property developer, Chenol specialises in the delivery of innovative, high-quality residential and commercial property solutions within Melbourne and surrounding areas. Thanks again to Rushdu Chenol and your team at Chenol for your long-term support. A round of applause to our NPL final sponsor. Here to present the awards today, we're delighted to have a couple of very special guests. We've got the head coach of the Matildas here tonight, Tony Gustafson, and we've got the chairman of Football Australia, Chris Niku. Firstly, we would like to thank the match officials, without which this game would not have been possible. Big thank you to our referees, Lachlan Keevers, the match referee, assistant referees Astro Sakalis and Uga Arslan. The fourth official, Adam Bavka, and the reserve assistant referee, Benjamin Lapilio. We would now like to award the Jimmy Rooney Medal for the best player of the match as voted by the match officials. And we're thrilled to have the man himself, Jimmy Rooney, here with us today to present the award that's named in his honour. Let's give him a round of applause. Jimmy Rooney, everybody. It's with great pleasure to announce that the 2022 Jimmy Rooney Medal goes to number 14, Aaron Williams. Two goals from central defence. What an incredible night he's had. Aaron Williams, everybody. What a performance. We would now like to present the runner-up medals to South Melbourne FC. Although they fell short today, they had an incredible season lifting the Premier's plate, and we'd like to congratulate the team on their achievements throughout 2022. Number 1, Javier Lopez. Number 5, Jake Marshall. Number 4, Marko Jankovic. Number 11, the captain, Brad Norton. Number 6, Patrick Langlois. Number 2, Liram Elmazi. Number 10, Marcus Schroen. Number 19, Alan Webb. Number 22, Max Mikula. Number 23, Jai Ingham. Number 33, Morgan Evans. And the substitutes, number 20, Chris Kuznin. Number 3, Perry Lambropoulos. Number 7, Chris Irwin. Number 14, Josh Wallen. Number 12, Matthew Lutrakis. And number 31, Xavier Ryan. I'd now like to invite the head coach of South Melbourne FC up to the mic to say a few words. Esteban Quintas. And collecting the runners-up pennants. Just move on. Is there someone from South Melbourne who'd like to come up and say a few words? Perhaps the captain? All right, well. The captain of South Melbourne, Brad Norton, thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Firstly, congratulations to Oakley. You guys just keep backing it up. Came here and just played us off the park. So congratulations, CT, Tyson, the boys. Well done. To our team, guys, we've had a miraculous year. I don't think anyone predicted us to get to this point. You worked hard, led well by our coaching staff, who we owe everything to. So thank you, guys. We'll be back bigger and stronger next year. And to our supporters, sorry we let you down today, but we'll be bigger and better next year. So stick with us. Thank you.
And now for the champions of the 2022 NPL Victoria Grand Final, the Oakley Cannons. Number 1, Luis Italiano. Come up and collect your medals, gents. Number 1, Luis Italiano. Number 23, Matthew Fascini. Number 14, Aaron Williams. Number 5, Oscar Dillon. Number 4, Anthony Pantazopoulos. Number 19, Oliver Kubalay. Number 24, Chris Lucas. Number 10, Joe Guess. Number 20, Daniel Clark. Number 28, Joe Knowles. Number 11, Wade Decker. Number 3, Nick Ganakis. Number 12, Alan Korkarich. Number 15, Stephen Sakalarios. Number 16, Nicholas Niagoran. Number 17, Mario Barcia. And the captain, number 8, Tyson Holmes. I'd now like to invite the head coach of the Oakley Cannons, Chris Taylor, to say a few words before accepting the championship trophy. Chris Taylor, would you like to come to the mic, say a few words before lifting the trophy?
What do you want to do it?
Hey? Yeah. Firstly, I'd just like to congratulate Esteban and Braddles and the whole South Club for an amazing year. You know, the ladder doesn't lie, and their position of where they finished speaks for itself, so I'm sure you'll be back next year bigger and better. To a lot of the Oakley supporters, I know it's been a very long time in the making. There's been a few grand finals lost, but we finally got there and we finally did it. And obviously, I'd like to say a big thank you to the coaching staff, everyone behind the scenes that puts in a massive effort for this club. But most importantly, the boys over there, they just keep turning up week in, week out. And I could not be more proud of this bunch of boys. And I think it showed in our last month or two. It's been brilliant. So thank you.
Yes. Tyson's probably said everything there, but big thank you to South Melbourne and well done this year. Esteban, great coaching, finished top of the league, best team by far all year. Probably, unfortunate today, but good luck to our guys. In terms of what we've got, just want to thank this group. They're an unbelievable group. I think we've got the big cup game on Wednesday, so all of you get down there and support us on, because we want to get to another final and win another cup. All right, thanks.
And now to lift the championship trophy, the Oakley Cannons. Tyson Holmes, the cup is yours.